Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. In my videos, I use both Vedic and traditional Western techniques with tropical astrology, not sidereal astrology. I also use the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis. You can use this video to the best of your advantage by listening to the introduction to understand what the week holds for you, and then going to the timestamps for your sun, moon, and rising sign to get a more personalized forecast for the week ahead. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now, there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam. Report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Hello everybody, what an exciting Astro Weather Report and Patreon report I have in store for you. We are looking today at the eclipse on the 15th of October, the new moon or solar eclipse at 21 degrees of Libra. In my part of the world, Australian Eastern Standard Time, this will be occurring at 4:54 a.m. in the morning. You might like to Google when the eclipse is occurring in your part of the world, in your time zone. But this video is going to be all about this new moon eclipse. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the nature of new moon or solar eclipses. I'm going to be looking at the new moon in Libra and its energy. I'm going to be looking at the chart of this eclipse and all the energies that are combining to play into the effect of this eclipse. I'm going to be looking at whereabouts this eclipse will be visible and what that will mean for you in your part of the world. I'm going to be looking at what it means to have key planets interacting with this eclipse. So if you've got a key planet in your natal chart that's on this same point of the eclipse, what's that going to mean for you? I'm going to be looking at the Saros cycle of this particular set of eclipses, and I'm going to then break down as I do every week in my Astro Weather Report, the effect of this energy, the new moon eclipse, for each and every sign. So there's so much to cover in this video. It is going to be a doozy. Thanks for joining me. Now, I want to point out that my Patreon family members will be getting an extended personal all signs breakdown for the eclipse, exploring how the eclipse will affect them personally in greater depth than I'm going to have time to do here on my YouTube channel. So if you want to know how this eclipse is going to be affecting you in greater depth with more detail, more information, then join the Patreon family. The link is in the description below. You can join for a month, you can join for a year, you can join indefinitely. It's only $5 a month to join and get this extra information, and you'll learn so much and be so richly blessed by joining our beautiful Guiding Star family over at the Patreon page. So we'll see you there. Okay, moving on. Let's look at the nature. Well, we'll start by looking at the nature of solar or new moon eclipses. It's like a new moon on steroids. You've got extra pow, extra oomph. You know, I feel like I'm in a Batman cartoon with this one. You know, it's just so much going on over and above what a usual new moon might do for you. So let's go through the points of what an eclipse, of a solar eclipse, a new moon eclipse can do. Usually a solar eclipse will trigger events within a week, either side of the eclipse, and even up to 6 months afterwards. We're in that zone of the eclipse until the next set of eclipses arrives. So you can have amazing things happen, usually a week before or a week after. You'll notice that if you've got key points interacting with the eclipse point in the chart, you'll see something happen in the week before or the week after that will affect you for 6 months, up to 6 months afterwards. Now, we need to consider an eclipse active when the sun moves within 19 degrees. This is in the case of a new moon eclipse. When the sun moves within 19 degrees either side 90 degrees of the nodes on either side. And this is what we call the eclipse season. And when we enter that zone, activation can occur at any time. So we have been in an active phase since the sun was at 2 degrees of Libra, and this occurred on the 26th of September. So this is Australian dates that I'm giving you here. So we've actually been in this activation phase since then. So it's possible that events might have unfolded since that point. Now, interestingly, just before an eclipse occurs, there is always a drop in the Earth's electromagnetic emissions. This has been recorded by science. So there is a recorded energy shift on the planet just before an eclipse occurs. And of course, we notice that effect in our lives because we're energy receptors. We human beings, we're receptors of energy, vessels of energy. And so we respond to these energetic changes in the atmosphere and the world and the solar system where we reside here in the body. So in mundane astrology, solar eclipses, which are actually rarer to see than lunar eclipses, that's when the moon is eclipsed, are usually visible from up to 50% of the area of the Earth. You know, masses of people can see a lunar eclipse, but a solar eclipse is only visible from a much smaller area of the Earth. And as above, so below. When we have a solar eclipse, when the sun is eclipsed by the moon, it will affect the leadership, which is obviously a smaller proportion of the population in leadership positions compared to the masses, which are affected by lunar eclipses. So this solar eclipse, this new moon eclipse, is going to have an effect on the leadership. Might bring about some leadership changes, some leadership shifts. Bring it on. I'm sick and tired of the leaders that we've got on the planet at the moment. So hopefully this is an eclipse that kicks ass in that regard. So any changes that come with a solar eclipse will be caused also from the outside in. That means there'll be external changes with a new moon eclipse, a solar eclipse, that we will need to adjust and change and be flexible about, and we're going to need to change our lives as a result of the circumstances that occur around us. Outside affecting inward, us. Okay, so it's different with a lunar eclipse, but a solar eclipse works in that manner. So some astrological texts, ancient astrological texts, indicate that a new moon eclipse is felt stronger by people who were born in the day when the sun was above the horizon, because the sun is a more significant factor in a day chart than the moon is, and it's the sun that's being eclipsed. So if you were born during the day, you might find that this solar eclipse has a bit more oomph, a bit more power in your life than your friend with a similar chart who was born at night. Okay? But eclipses mark a major turning point in life. The universe is intent on moving us forward now, getting us out of a rut, so to speak, or shifting us into our purpose, our meaning, our destiny, because eclipses are caused by the nodes of the moon. And the nodes are A, very karmic, and B, the nodes are very much about moving us forward into our purpose and destiny for being on this planet. So when we have an eclipse, it's always going to shove us forward in life, push us to where we're meant to be. And there'll be no going backwards from wherever this eclipse takes us. Exciting times. So the energy of an eclipse is about realigning with your purpose and your intent for incarnation now, and anything superfluous to your soul's intent for being here will often need to be let go of. You know, if you're in a relationship that's not serving you, if you're in a career that's not serving you, that's not part of your soul's intent, if you're in friendship groups that are not part of, your soul's growth, it's time to let those things go now. So this is why change happens during eclipses. But whatever happens, remember, it's for your highest good. And I don't say that lightly, because I've lost jobs, lost money, lost my place of living because of eclipses in my past. But it was always for a greater purpose, for growth, for progress. I had to let those things go. So remember, no matter what happens, no matter how hard it might feel, whatever happens to you as a result of these eclipses is going to be for the greater good in your life, for your soul's growth. And that's the whole purpose for our incarnation, isn't it? You know, to grow our soul, to mature, to become wise, to elevate, really. And sometimes, well, most of the time, it's through difficult circumstances that we grow and stretch ourselves and realize, you know, we are stronger than we think, we are wiser than we knew, we are more capable than we gave ourselves credit for. Whatever happens as a result of this eclipse is actually for your highest good. But I would just encourage you, my friends, remember to always act with kindness to other people at the time of an eclipse, and to forgive at the time of an eclipse. You might be the one that somebody else is letting go of. That happened to me in a number of eclipses. You know, usually like a marriage ended, or a dating circumstance came to a conclusion with an eclipse activating it. And you know, that's okay. We don't owe anyone anything, and we do not own anyone either. All we owe, and all other people owe us, is kindness, and this includes being kind to ourselves. So keep that in mind for this eclipse. Remember to act with kindness, forgiveness, and love, no matter what's going on and what's unfolding. It's good for your karma to do that anyway, but it is the best way to handle an eclipse. Also, we can make space. We can be flexible and allow in what needs to take place. Don't fight it. If we fight it, we just end up miserable. Go with the flow, because this eclipse, if it's causing events in your life, it's marking an important turning point for you and your life. This is a complete change of pace that's happening now, and we need to be embracing of whatever the universe is bringing into our lives. Now, often with a solar eclipse, there'll be some news of a big life event that's going to affect you. So you might get information that changes your circumstances. Somebody might give you an ultimatum that changes some circumstances in your life. There's some sort of news that often arrives with a solar eclipse. Solar eclipses also tend to create new beginnings and bring new opportunities. So even if something is being eclipsed out of your life, out of it is bound to come a new opportunity to reinvent yourself, or to realign yourself, or to grow in a new direction. So look for the opportunities, look for the new beginnings. There is often with an eclipse a random event that you didn't expect. For example, I have been dumped as a result of an eclipse in the past, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, even though it was a shock at the time. I have been fired from a job for no reason, I might add, on that point, which was completely out of the blue, complete shock for me as well. I've also met partners as a result of an eclipse that came completely out of the blue, did not see it coming, fell in love as a result of eclipses, but they've always been unexpected, random, haven't been looking for them. So once again, it's an exciting time of change when whatever happens is going to help you grow, like I said, in a new direction and experience something new in life. So it pays to pay attention to all the events, all the news, all the gossip, all the interactions that you have within the eclipse season. As I said, the 26th of September was when it started, as they're going to be important in your life. Notice the changes, notice the energy shifts, even subtle things. They might turn into big things by the time the eclipse occurs. Now, this eclipse in Libra is falling with the South Node. Now, when we have an eclipse falling with the South Node, I'll show you here, I'll pop it up where everyone can see. So here we've got the Sun with the Moon in between. This is usually representative of our place here on the Earth, the Guiding Star logo there. We're looking out, there's the Moon moving in front of the Sun. And over here at 24 degrees of Libra is the South Node of the Moon. And whenever the South Node is involved, it indicates that this eclipse will involve some sort of letting go, releasing something out of your life so that you can make way for the new that's wanting to begin now. So for those of you with key planets here, especially, you'll be letting go of something so that something new can start. Now, if this eclipse is falling on your sun placement, let's say you have your sun at 21 degrees of Libra, happy birthday, by the way, it will be your birthday, but it's going to be a very key year in the course of your life because your solar return chart is going to carry the eclipse. in it, and so you are under the effect of the eclipse. If you're having your birthday on the eclipse, you're going to be under the effect of the eclipse for a whole year, not just 6 months. And you could include this if you were born sort of the day before the eclipse or the day after the eclipse as well. It would still be just as potent. So big changes if you've got your sun here. Also, if you happen to have Leo prominent in your chart, Leo rising, Leo moon, or Leo sun placement, you will tend to be more affected by solar eclipses than other people as well. Because the sun rules that key sign in your chart. The sun rules Leo. So Leo people are often heavily affected by eclipses. And that's me. And that's why I've had some really key significant events and upheavals occur because I'm ruled by the sun in Leo. Eclipses that are also in the same element as your birth sign are generally friendly to you. So let's say you have the sun, the moon, or the rising sign in either Aquarius or Gemini, which are the same air signs as Libra. You're going to tend to be blessed because of the eclipse, because the eclipse will be trining. Blessing, a trine is a blessed aspect, trining your sign. So that's big thumbs up if that's what you've got. What does it mean now? Let's move into another piece of our analysis here. What does it mean when we have a new moon eclipse, in this case a new moon on steroids, occurring in Libra? Well, new moons in Libra are all about a give and take. And so give and take is actually the focus here. What do you need to give in order to receive? What do you need to receive from somebody else in order to give out to the world? It's about negotiations, it's about deals, it's about trade, it's about compromise when we have a new moon in Libra. So for many of you, there might be a call for you, even if you don't have planets at this key point of 21 degrees Libra, it might be a call for you to give and take in a new way going ahead into the next 6 months. A restart in relationships is also possible with a new moon in Libra, just in general, because Libra's the sign of companionship, the sign of partnership, the sign of relationship. And so when we have a new moon, it indicates new beginnings, new starts, turning over a new leaf. So for many of you, even if this sign, Libra, does not fall on your relationship axis, which is the first house or the seventh house, even if you don't have that, it's still possible that this eclipse can orchestrate for you a fresh start in relationships. Doesn't mean that your relationship will end or anything bad will happen, but it means that maybe you've been in a relationship for many years and it's getting a bit tired, a bit ho-hum, and then lo and behold this eclipse occurs in Libra and you refresh your relationship. You fall in love with your partner all over again, or you give yourself and your partner there's an injection of romance into your life that's been lacking. So a restart in relationships is possible. For some people, new relationships might begin, usually if a planet is being triggered here, or the ascendant or the descendant is being triggered by this eclipse, might indicate a new beginning in relationship. Also, a new moon eclipse, a new moon in Libra can indicate needing to do things in pairs, needing to partner up for success in life and progress in life. So there might be some occurrence where you need to sort of collaborate with somebody or interact with somebody quite significantly in order to move ahead in life as a result of this new moon. Legal matters can become a focus under a new moon in Libra. So for some people, there could be sort of letting go of an old legal matter. Remember, this new moon falls with the South Node. It could also be that legal matters begin under this new moon as well, because new moons represent beginnings. So there's for some of you the potential that legal matters become some sort of focus now. Libra is also the sign of fighting for justice and fairness. There is a desire to bring back equilibrium into your personal life with a new moon in Libra, but also the world. Now, some people consider, I don't buy into this particularly, but I do know that some people consider Eris the ruler of Libra, because Aries, opposite it, is ruled by her brother, Aries. So Aries is opposite Libra, and the sister of Aries was Eris, and they consider she was a fighter for justice and equality. Did not like even though she's a goddess of discord, did not like disharmony. Now, like I said, I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory, but I have heard astrologers speak about that. I thought I'd just mention it. With a new moon in Libra, we might be, like I said, fighting for justice, fighting for fairness, fighting for what is right, as is the nature of Libra. Let's now take a look at the chart of this eclipse. Okay, we're going to be using, 5-degree orbs. That means I'm going to look at any tight conjunctions or aspects. I don't want to sort of spread it out to sort of 10 and 15 and 20 degrees. That's just too much energy to really play in powerfully to this eclipse. Let us now look at the chart with 5-degree orbs. And remember, the eclipse is occurring on the 15th of October, and it's here at 21 degrees. Let's write this on the board, 21 degrees of the sign of Libra. And of course, we have the node of the moon at 24 degrees. And so this is quite a tight little new moon. You know, it's very close to the nodes. And when we have that happen, first of all, we know we're getting towards midway through the Saros cycle, but we're also going to feel this eclipse more potently because it's close to the node. So, 3 degrees from the nodes. This means that the eclipse is annular. You'll hear people referring to the annular eclipse. And annularity is where the sun forms a ring of fire around the moon. You might have seen images of this and photographs of this, but this is only going to be visible from only a few places on Earth. We'll talk about this shortly, but that's what annular is, when you can see that ring of fire around the moon. So annular eclipses, particularly solar, in this case, are very, very beautiful, very powerful, but only visible from a very small section of the Earth. Fortunately, with this eclipse, there is nothing out of bounds. Relief there. Usually when something is out of bounds, it's a wild card. It can bring amazing, incredible results into our life, but it can also bring upheavals that, are just like off the Richter scale kind of thing. So nothing is out of bounds. Breathe a sigh of relief for that one. So the eclipse is at 21 degrees, and Pluto down here is at 27 degrees of Capricorn. So that's within that 5-degree orb that I mentioned. So we have a square from this eclipse, yikes, to the god of the underworld, Pluto. What are some of the ways that this might then express in our lives? Well, Pluto is the planet of intensity and intense desires. So our desires come in very strongly into this eclipse. They can actually consume us, and it's like we're hungry for something to be satisfied. And this could be in the material realm, or it could be in the spiritual realm. We're just a bit insatiable for some change, from some transformation, for the fulfillment of our desires. So that can be an intense energy that we have to deal with. The energy of Pluto is willpower, collective willpower, whereas Mars is personal willpower. So this willpower could be affecting the masses. Maybe the will of the masses is sort of tested at this time because it's a hard aspect, a difficult aspect. We might feel that people out there in the world, leadership, which is represented by an eclipse, a solar eclipse, that the leadership are crossing the boundaries of our temperate nature, and our iron will as the mass group of people can be triggered. We won't tolerate being bossed around as a result of this eclipse. And if we feel pressured, we're going to sort of tap into that self-will, perhaps some aggression, and it might not be easy for the masses to control themselves, resulting from maybe something that the leadership in the world tries to instigate or put on us. So be aware of that. If you see these sorts of things in the news, you'll know what it's coming from here. On a personal level, the desire for victory is being unlocked here, because Pluto can be quite competitive, and so we really want to win. We really want to assert ourselves. We really want to come out on top. So you might feel being pushed by this eclipse to succeed, pushed to produce better work, pushed. You can be pushing yourself here, but you can also be coming from externally to you. Remember, that's the nature of a solar eclipse. You might be feeling pushed to achieve more, do more, accomplish more, succeed more. Very ambitious is Pluto, and there's a lot of push with this eclipse to succeed. Yeah, so wanting victory, seeking out victory, moving towards victory. There's also a thirst for power and control that comes with a Pluto aspect here. And this is not a moderate energy. This is a full-on, let's, no holds barred, let's really get control over a situation. So unfortunately, when that is the case, it can result in crisis or provocative behavior because we're jostling for control, we're jostling for power. Now that can be in our personal lives, or we might be observing it out there in mundane astrology, out in world politics and world economics and things like that. Jostling for power, jostling for control, and trying to dominate. So that's an unfortunate energy this eclipse can bring. There is also, just be careful around the time of the eclipse, because this aspect to Pluto can bring violence, it can bring accidents, power struggles, battles of the will that can cause friction and actual problems in the physical, like you knock someone's bumper in the car park and it turns into an all-out fight, that kind of thing, incidents, violence, and so forth. One other thing that we can see is that there might be really dynamic twists and turns, like transformation in the extreme can result. Usually, though, through a crisis, usually through a difficult situation. So expect that if you are having things triggered by this eclipse, that there might be a crisis situation that will transform you, but it's going to be something you're going to need some stoicism, some courage, and some real willpower to push through. Okay, I hate saying that because I don't like to be sort of what we would perceive as negative. But let's face it, life is not always a bed of roses. There's going to be transformation coming for some people that is going to require a lot of strength of character to push through. Okay, so that's the first aspect. The second aspect in this chart is here, a conjunction with Mercury. Mercury is at 17 degrees of Libra, so Mercury is in a conjunction with this eclipse. This is an indicator, get my words out properly. This is an indication that there's going to be a lot of mental involvement in this eclipse. You're going to be thinking a lot. You want to be very careful of going down the rabbit hole of struggle and depression and poor me and it's not fair. There's some tension in the mind, so do have some strategies up your sleeve to alleviate. Maybe that's meditation, maybe it's mindfulness practices, or rest and relaxation, things that calm anxiety. Eat foods that are high in serotonin at this time, because that's going to help lift your levels of serotonin that can affect how you're thinking, of course. Nervous system can be a little bit tense, a little bit overworked now. It's hard to switch the mind off, perhaps. So there's some of the challenges of the conjunction here with Mercury and the eclipse, but we're likely to be more communicative because our mind is highly active and we want to talk things out. We want to, put the word out there, get the things that are in our head out of our head and out into the ether. So just be conscious of your communication, because it's all in a square to Pluto, of course. Try and avoid being manipulative with your words. Try and avoid being coercive, dominant, asserting your will through your words and rubbing people the wrong way. You're going to want to speak, you're going to want to communicate, you're going to want to talk. That square to Pluto is not going to make it all that easy, for you to speak things out and it be received well. And it also might mean that you might be hearing things, receiving information, and it rubs you the wrong way. It makes you upset. Okay? Mercury is at a distance of sort of under 6.5 degrees from the sun, and when we have a Mercury in that position, it's considered to be burned. It's being harmed by its proximity to the sun. So we can be facing difficulties in work, communication, and also difficulties in relationships. Usually that will tie into feeling unheard or misunderstood in some way. So keep that in mind. This is just the nature of Mercury in a conjunction with this eclipse. Pretty heavy duty, isn't it? It's not the easiest combination of energies to work through, but there is some good news, and I'm going to talk about the good news now. So I'm glad you stuck with me. It's not all doom and gloom. This eclipse, and this is something that excites the pants off me. This eclipse is in a conjunction with a beautiful fixed star. In fact, it's probably, I would say, it's my favorite fixed star of all. A fixed star at 23 degrees of Libra, a fixed star that carries the nature of Venus and Mars combined. It's Spica. Now, you probably will have heard many astrologers speak about Spica. It's one of the brightest stars in the night sky. And it's one of the few stars that actually sits on the ecliptic plane. So it is powerful, and it is in a conjunction with this eclipse. It's not a projected degree to the ecliptic plane like some other stars are. This one will be involved directly in the eclipse. So when we have this type of activity in the heavens, and it doesn't happen frequently, it's rare, which makes it all the more potent and all the more special, what can happen is that this eclipse, especially for people with conjunctions to Spica natally, this eclipse can bring about unbounded good fortune, can bring riches into some people's life, extreme happiness, it can bring honor into some people's lives, and it can even bring advancement beyond your hopes and dreams or your capacity to even achieve. Maybe you're somebody who, maybe didn't get a very high education because that wasn't an opportunity that was afforded you or something, and so you think, I can't really get to that high level or achieve that great thing that my sister was able to achieve or whatever. But with this eclipse falling on Spica, you can go beyond what you ever thought you could. You can achieve more than you ever hoped you could. Spica is an incredible fixed star. So if you've got Spica on an angle, that means with the ascendant degree, and you've only got a 2-degree wriggle room here. Any more than that, it's not going to count. If you've got Spica on the ascendant, the midheaven, the descendant, or the IC, or if you have Spica, which is at 23 degrees, with the moon or the sun, then this eclipse could be magical and manifesting for you. In India, they consider this to be the most magical of fixed stars. So also, if you have Venus or Mars at 23 degrees of Libra, then you will also be 10 times blessed because of this eclipse and all that it's bringing about. So there's the good news for people with those points in their chart being activated by the eclipse. Wow. As I said, and I have to stress this, it's only for people who have their ascendant at 23 degrees, 22 degrees, or 21 degrees of Libra. Any more than that, and it's just not going to be activated, okay? So very, very tight orbs when we're looking at fixed stars in this instance with the eclipse. Now, the ruler of the eclipse is the ruler of Libra, which is Venus. So we have to assess, well, what's Venus doing in the chart? What is she giving to this eclipse energy? Well, here is Venus down here in Virgo. She's at 5 degrees of Virgo. And guess what? This happens to be one of the signs of debilitation for Venus to be in, unfortunately. So she's direct, but she's not very strong because she's in debilitation. But something that I noticed that is so exciting about this placement of Venus is the fact that it's in a Parivartana yoga, which is a mutual exchange with Mercury here, who is conjunct the eclipse itself. So even though Mercury is not doing many favors to this eclipse by being burnt by the sun, it's in a mutual exchange that is going to enrich the sign of Libra and the sign of Virgo as a result of this eclipse. Virgo and Libra. Both of those signs will be enhanced and empowered because their rulers are in a mutual exchange. So I'll be talking about this mutual exchange and how it's going to impact personally for each sign this eclipse in my extended eclipse review at the Patreon family for all signs. So if you want to know how this Parivartana Yoga or mutual exchange is blessing this eclipse for you, tune into the Patreon family. Come and join us there. So that's an exciting component I wanted to point out. The ruler of the eclipse is in a mutual exchange, a Parivartana Yoga, with a planet conjunct the eclipse. Wowee. So that's the good news, fixed star and Parivartana Yoga. This eclipse itself, well, when we have any new moon, the moon becomes dark for 3 days. So the day before the eclipse, the day of the eclipse, and the day after the eclipse. And so it's very hard to manifest anything at that time. The moon is a manifesting planet, and it's hard to manifest things when we have no moon. But it's a time instead for going within, becoming introspective and weighing up our inner world. And this means assessing how we feel at the very core of our being. No more hiding things in the basement, no more ignoring our weaknesses, ignoring our struggles and trying to shove them under the rug. No more ignoring the darkness within us. Everything is being reviewed now and comes under scrutiny as we go within for this particular eclipse, especially with a square to Pluto, which is very much connected to our psyche and our psychological assessment. Psychology is a very Plutonian energy. So expect that because of this eclipse, we're going to have some very deep things be revealed to us. Not only because of the square from Pluto, but because the moon is introspective when it is in a new moon phase. So, my friends, do you have planets around 21 degrees of Libra? Were you born during the daytime? Do you have strong Leo placements in your chart? Do you want to know what this means for your sign in greater depth? Then come and join us at the Patreon family and you'll get the full shebang of how this is playing out for you. That's enough looking at the chart of this eclipse. Where will this eclipse go? Who is going to be affected by location? Well, I'm going to show you now. We're going to go to a website that will reveal to us where the eclipse is going to be visible. So here we have the path of the eclipse this time round, and this eclipse follows the Great American Total Eclipse of August 2017. It actually is occurring 6 months before the Mexico, US, Canada total eclipse that we're expecting in April 2024, that's also going to be covering this area of the world on this path. So because it is an annular eclipse, I'll show you an image of how the eclipse will work in just a second. But the annularity of the eclipse, so the total eclipse where you've got this ring of fire effect, is going to be visible here along this red line. So fully visible from all the countries in the path of this red line, whereas all the other countries will only get a partial version of this eclipse, not the full ring of fire effect. So you can see it varies in degrees, starting lightly at this end and getting stronger and stronger the closer you get to this red line. Like the eclipse of 2017, though, being a solar eclipse, it's likely to affect the leadership of countries in the path of the red line. So we've got everything down to Brazil, through Central America and up through the western states, the south and western states of the United States of America that are going to be in the path of this eclipse. I'll show you a little bit more here on the global version. So here it is here, showing you on the globe version. We'll turn the globe around. There's Africa, Asia, India, Australia, and we come around through the Pacific, and there we are back to the global view of the eclipse that you can see there, where that red line shows us the path and the countries that are going to be affected. And now I'm going to just conclude this little piece by showing you how the moon is going to move in front of the sun. So we move as the time progresses. The moon's going to come in across the sun like this, swing around to its totality, and you'll get that ring of fire effect then. You can see that ring of fire around the moon, which will darken the sun. And then the moon is going to move out of that path of the sun, or the conjunction with the sun, like so. I'll play that one more time because it is actually quite fascinating to observe the path of the eclipse. Here it comes in, covers the sun to its totality, everything goes dark, and out it comes and we have light again. Quite fascinating how these things work, and to me it's intriguing how the moon comes in almost, sorry about that, in the corner there, almost on like an angle and then changes direction. Like it's quite intriguing, quite fascinating. But that is our little piece now on where the eclipse is going to be occurring and which countries are going to be most affected by the path of this eclipse, remembering that it's a solar eclipse, so it is likely to affect people in leadership positions in those countries that are in the path of the eclipse. Now let's look at what it means for you if you have key planets interacting with this particular eclipse. If you've got planets at 21 degrees of Libra, and you can probably, consider that if you have planets sort of, maybe 2 or 3 degrees either side of that 21 degree mark, then they're going to be activated now. You are going to be a very strong recipient of the energies of this eclipse. And new moons see new beginnings, often pertaining to the house that Libra rules. We'll talk about that a little later. But you can see a new beginning relating to something that maybe came into your life 2 weeks ago when we had the recent phase of the new moon, a full moon. Or it could be something that came into your life 6 months ago when we had a full moon in Libra, or 1 year ago when we had the last new moon in Libra. But because it's an eclipse, sometimes we can even look at a new beginning that is happening for something that started in our lives 18 years ago when there was last an eclipse with the South Node in Libra. So think back to 18 years ago. What was going on in your life? What were the key components of your life? What was happening? What was unfolding 18 years ago that might now be repeating or giving a fresh start to something in your life? What were you doing 18 years ago that seems to be repeating now? Well, in this eclipse energy, like I said, if you have a planet within 2 degrees of 23 degrees of Libra, then you are likely to feel this strongly. Let's take a look at what it means when you have the sun here in this position. Well, it's likely that this eclipse will cause you to feel a craving for approval from other people, because Libran sun energy wants to feel approved of by other people. Their confidence often comes from others. So you might feel hungry now, especially with this square to Pluto. You might feel very hungry for affirmation from other people. So you might be looking for that. You might be seeking that under this eclipse energy. You might be looking for advice from other people, reaching out for some sort of guidance and wisdom from another person. The sun represents I am this, I am that. And when it's in Libra, it says I'm a negotiator, I'm a bargainer, I'm a matchmaker. So this eclipse can be triggering perhaps a new beginning with your identity in that way. You might be put in a circumstance where you have to negotiate something, have to bargain something, or you're given an opportunity to be the matchmaker for a friend or a family member as a result of this eclipse. The sun is also where we shine, and so with this eclipse you might be given the opportunity to shine in some sort of artistic realm, with design, with beauty, with art. In a relationship you might be given the opportunity to shine, with partnership, with creating harmony, with creating balance, maybe in some sort of negotiations, maybe in a contractual situation you're given the opportunity to to shine as well as sign. This is also perhaps for some of you an opportunity for a life partner to shine as a result of this eclipse, because Libra is very much about others and it's about partnership. Maybe you and your partner have the opportunity to shine in some way as a result of this eclipse. You might be given a leadership position because of this eclipse, but in a Libran field, maybe in a legal field or a design field or some sort of artistic field, fashion, diplomacy, justice, and some sort of style cultural kind of position of leadership that can also come your way if you're having your sun triggered here. Let's now look at the moon in Libra and what might happen if you've got a Libran moon in conjunction with this eclipse. Well, the moon in Libra likes to feel emotionally connected, and so this eclipse can trigger a deep feeling of emotional connection with another person. You might feel bonded with another person at a deeper level. Something might happen in a relationship or partnership that takes you to a new level emotionally. So beautiful. Libra is a wonderful place for the moon to be, actually. The moon is not exalted in Libra. The moon's exalted in Taurus, which is ruled by the same planet, Venus. You might be given the opportunity in a family situation to be a peacemaker and to practice diplomacy and harmony, because that's the nature of Libra, and the moon rules family. You might even be undertaking a diplomatic role or a peacemaking role with a maternal figure, with a mother perhaps. But one thing that this eclipse is going to really trigger in you is an emotional need for peace and balance and harmony. You might even also get an opportunity to beautify your home as a result of this eclipse in some way, to create a beautiful home. Some of you people with a moon at this degree might experience significant changes with your home or your domestic environment. Something might be shifting in your domestic environment now, or maybe some of you might be prompted to sell your home and buy a new one, or renovate your home in some way. Something is changing and shifting as a result of this eclipse with your moon. I would encourage you, if you have this placement, to be flexible emotionally with your relationships, because again, eclipses are bringing change here. If you've been in an emotionally unbalanced relationship or an unhappy relationship, be that a work relationship or a personal relationship, if you've been in a situation where you haven't been treated equally or fairly, then this eclipse can do one of two things. It can shake you out of a rut with that and end that situation for you, or it can make you sick in some sort of psychosomatic way. If you haven't been dealing with these emotional imbalances and imbalanced life situations, you might need to address some health issue. So better to do that of your own accord than for the eclipse to pull the rug out from under you in that way. If you stay in difficult situations with this placement, it can tend to take you towards mental health issues. The moon in Vedic astrology rules the mind, so you might end up with depression or anxiety if you don't make the changes necessary that this eclipse is calling you to do. You need harmony emotionally and environmentally with the moon in Libra. Okay, so once again, with the moon here, there's potential for change in the life of a maternal figure, maybe a shifting of direction for a maternal figure, or maybe even because of the nature of this eclipse chart, there might be some upheavals in the life of your mother or a maternal figure or someone who has a mother role in your life. So do check in with those people, check in with family members as well. Now, if you happen to have Mercury at this point in the chart, Mercury in Libra, Mercury does quite well in the sign of Libra, actually. It's an air sign, and Mercury does well in air signs. But this eclipse can be triggering something communicatively with others. You might be given an opportunity to speak to a partner about an issue that's been bothering you. You might be able to speak up, like do a blog post or release a YouTube video, or be asked to speak at a TED Talk or something about communication with others, about about relationships, or about design or art or style, these things that Libra rules. So if you have Mercury here, there can be a triggering of an opportunity in that regard. You can be respected for your eloquent speech and your gracefulness when you speak. It's also, if you've got Mercury in Libra, you tend to be somebody who can uplift others and validate others with fairness and with balance in verbally. So very diplomatic kind of speech when you've got Mercury here in the sign of Libra. And so that can be expanded, it can be amplified as a result of this eclipse. You might be really being a blessing to many, many other people through your words because of this eclipse in some way. For some of you, you might, with Mercury here, you might be playing devil's, get my words out, playing devil's advocate. You might sort of, you might be involved in a group conversation that's very one-sided, and you throw the bomb of a different opinion in there just to balance things out and harmonize things. Don't be afraid to do so. This eclipse energy can be very beneficial for you to do that and to create more harmony and balance in your conversations and in debates, and stimulate sort of a fair and just communicative environment. But one thing that is likely to happen more than any other with the eclipse falling on your Mercury is that you might be changing your mind about something. The way you think about something might be going through a radical upheaval and redirectioning. You might be thinking, you might have had one perspective on the world and life before this eclipse, and after this eclipse, lo and behold, you take the complete opposite view, the opposite point. That's because Libra is a cardinal sign and it rules change. So expect that this eclipse is going to bring change to the way you see the world and the way you think. Now, if you have your Venus placement within a conjunction of this eclipse at 21 degrees of Libra, well, this is actually very beneficial because Libra is the ruling planet of this eclipse. So it can really bring more beauty into your life. It can change your life to feel more pleasurable, more delightful. You might even meet a partner if you're single, or it can really amplify and uplift your current relationship if you are in one. So this is a great placement to have involved in this eclipse. It can bring more, it can make you feel more beautiful as a person. You can start dressing in a whole new way, change your style, change your image to make you more beautiful in some way. You might be given opportunities to interact in very refined circumstances where you can, polite society, involved in sort of a charming, gracious, or even glamorous environment in some way. You might be invited to a special concert or given a chance to enjoy a very high level dinner out at some fancy restaurant or something. Libra is pleasurable experiences. Venus is pleasurable experiences. In the sign of Libra, it's all about high level pleasurable experiences. So the eclipse can bring about and trigger those sorts of events in your life and those sorts of experiences. It's also possible that a woman might enter into your life, Venus, a younger woman, who's going to bless your life in some way or change your life significantly in some way. So don't be surprised if a young woman enters your life and something completely turns around 180 degrees in your life because of that. If you have Mars falling at the same degree of this eclipse, 21 degrees of Libra, so if your Mars is natally there, this can be an empowering eclipse for business and also for personal relationships, but empowering in the sense that you will be given like the old term my teachers used to use, put a bomb under you. You all of a sudden have the impetus to just get up and go, to make a relationship work, or to pursue a relationship, or to ask that person out on a date and won't take no for an answer. Or the same with business. You are just going for that new project, you're putting in for that new job. You are really gung-ho about making something happen with business or personal relationships when you have Mars here. Very competitive energy that's being triggered by this eclipse. So it's good for business, business interactions because, especially if you're in a competitive environment with business, because you can be really aggressive and get what you want. Sometimes it can leave a bit of a sour taste in people's mouth when they've been put upon by an aggressive person. Now, I'm not saying you're naturally aggressive if you've got Mars here. In fact, that's not likely to be the case with Mars in Libra, but the eclipse can trigger that. Remember, we've got this strong square from Pluto activating this eclipse. So this sort of a highly ambitious competitive energy might just bubble up in you that you didn't even realize that you had. The other thing to be careful of with an eclipse falling on Mars at this point is that Mars can cause infections and inflammations and cuts and bruises. And because Libra has to do with the kidneys and the urinary tract, do be careful of those parts of the body and sort of protect them now. Be kind, make sure you drink plenty of fluids to flush the system and get rid of toxins. It's quite important for you guys with Mars here to do that. The other thing is that There can be a triggering with this eclipse of fiery interactions in relationship where you're arguing all the time and usually you get along fine. So there might be sort of more aggressive words or more fighting that's occurring in a relationship. If that's the case, just recognize, hey, that's the eclipse at play there on my Mars. I'm not going to take this too personally, or I'm going to sort of apologize for the words that I say when I need to say. I'm not going to be too defensive. Consciously think about why the energies are playing out the way they are, and then you can sort of mitigate them through knowledge. Knowledge is power in astrology and in everything in life, isn't it? If you happen to have Jupiter in a conjunction with this solar eclipse, well, this is actually a generational thing. There might be quite a few people of your age that you know who are also going through this particular triggering in the eclipse. And it will very much tie into what Jupiter is ruling in your chart, what houses Jupiter rules in your chart, how it's likely to manifest for you personally. But generally speaking, you might find that there is some sort of opportunity for expansion and growth through some cultural or artistic field now. So this eclipse might see that you go to visit a historic exhibition or an art exhibition or something like that, and it totally changes your belief systems. It totally changes your attitude and your philosophical understanding of life. So expect that some cultural experience or some creative or artistic experience might change your life and your perspective on the world with this eclipse falling on your Jupiter. When Jupiter is in Libra, it can indicate good karma in relationships if you've got this natally. So, because Jupiter is the planet of good karma in the sign of Libra, the sign of relationships. So, what this can mean is that this eclipse might trigger some good karma for relationships. And I would suggest that that's more likely to be the case for women with this Jupiter placement, simply because Jupiter is the planet of spouse in a Vedic astrology interpretation in a woman's chart. So there might be some good karma for women in relationships that have Jupiter falling in a conjunction with this eclipse. People who have this placement, men and women alike, have a moral and ethical understanding of what relationships should look like. They just know. There's this inner knowing, this inner understanding of what a good relationship is. And they also receive good intuitive guidance about relationships when you've got Jupiter in Libra here. So you might find that that is triggered. You just sort of know this is not the relationship for me. You just sort of know that this new person that you've met, they are the one. You know, there's this inner intuitive psychological understanding and knowing about the relationships that you're encountering right now under this eclipse as well. You might be with Jupiter being triggered by this eclipse, prompted to go and study something relational, maybe becoming a relationship counselor or a relationship advisor, maybe a relationship astrologer. You might be inspired by this eclipse to pursue some sort of higher learning pertaining. Jupiter is higher learning and Libra is relationships, or maybe even you might even be inspired to go and study the law, become a lawyer if you've got Jupiter at this placement, and this eclipse can trigger that sort of activation in you, that aspirational activation. All right, if you have Saturn here, well, firstly, Saturn happens to be exalted in the sign of Libra, so it's a very powerful thing, a fantastic position to have Saturn in Libra. It has a high level of energy, Saturn here, to work in the best way possible. So this eclipse, well, let me just back up for a second. People with Saturn in Libra know how to accept suffering and accept hard work and delays, which is what Saturn is all about, graciously. Libra is graciousness. So you know how to work with life in a very stoic, balanced, harmonious way, and to deal with life's ups and downs and blockages and delays in the best possible way. And when difficult times come, you have the ability to work hard towards achieving balance in your life and bringing balance back into your life. So bravo, Saturn in Libra people. But this eclipse might be triggering a need to do that, a need to work hard to rebalance your life. It might trigger the need to activate your Libran grace as you plow through a difficult situation, or you work hard towards a goal that you've got. So this eclipse can trigger the need to do that. It can also trigger the need to exert sort of high level of discipline. Saturn is discipline. If you want to sort of progress in life, you might need to discipline yourself very well as a result of something that occurs with this eclipse. Saturn is the big karmic lessons of our life, and something might happen that is hugely karmic for you. Now that could be karmic from a past lifetime or from earlier this lifetime. You could find somebody comes back into your life and you need to resolve some karma with them. Maybe a situation that you experienced earlier in life comes up in your psychological analysis of where you're at. And you have to deal with some heavy duty old attitudes, old beliefs that perhaps need to be let go of. Remember, this eclipse is occurring with the South Node now. So definitely a karmic energy that you have the capacity to release and let go of. This eclipse can also trigger delays in negotiations when it falls with Saturn in a natal chart, or delays in a partnership, delays in a marriage situation. But don't worry, if things are postponed because of the eclipse triggering Saturn here, if things are postponed, keep, stoically moving one foot in front of the other. It will be worthwhile in the end to wait. So don't doubt what the universe is doing. Trust. Remember, Saturn here is exalted and this eclipse is triggering its exaltation, even if there are still blockages and restrictions about the nature of Libra. So endure, persevere, knowing that the results are going to be worth it in the end. Okay, so that's Saturn in this position. Now we get to the 3 outer planets, and these are very, very generational. So I want to just whiz through these with their effects. If you've got Uranus here, actually I have Uranus in conjunction with this eclipse, so go me. You'll be part of my generation. If you're watching this, you'll be sort of born around the same time as me if you've got Uranus in a conjunction with this eclipse. Well, it can bring surprises, sudden shocks. We need to hang on to our hats. Things that we didn't see coming come now out of the blue, Big changes, big life turns around happen with Uranus feeding into an eclipse in this way. And usually they'll be liberating. They'll be helping us be more authentic, more real, to speak our truth, to live our truth, and to break free, because Uranus is to break free of limiting circumstances. So I tend to see, just because of my nature, I see Uranus through quite loving eyes. Some people consider Uranus to be a malefic. I actually think Uranus is fantastic, because who doesn't want to be liberated? Who doesn't want to live an authentic life? Who doesn't want to be more free? So it's likely that this eclipse is going to bring more freedom, more liberation, more independence for many, many people. And because it's in Libra, that might mean, being more free in a business partnership, being more liberated in a business partnership or a relationship in some way. There could be surprises for a partner, because Libra is the sign of partnership. So it could be that, if you have Uranus being triggered by this eclipse, that your partner is going to go through a surprising change, or your partner is about to become more liberated or more free, or live a more authentic real life as a result of this eclipse, because Libra rules partnership. So yes, quite exciting times. Remember, Uranus rules electricity, and so what happens could be change in the blink of an eye, like the flick of a light switch. Boop, on comes the light. You're liberated from the darkness. If you happen to have Neptune here falling with the eclipse, well, that's an indication that there could be something sort of a bit unclear. Whereas Uranus is sort of bringing sudden clarity and sudden liberation, Neptune operates in a much more mystical, foggy, misty, gentle, unobtrusive way. So there could be changes coming into your life. Again, it's a generational placement, so as many of you who are going to be experiencing this, changes that creep into your life over probably the next 6 months. So it won't happen instantaneously. Whatever changes Neptune brings about will happen more unobtrusively over the course of the 6-month activation of the eclipse. But it's likely that there'll be spiritual changes, or changes in regard to, well, it could be anywhere depending on what Neptune rules in your chart, but spiritual changes, or changes in your creative output, or changes in your understanding of divinity, understanding of divine love. So even Neptune rules faraway places. For some of you, it could bring a journey to a faraway place. If you've got Neptune here, it could bring a change to your environment. And for some of you, I would also suggest that Neptune here might mean you want to check the water in your life. And by that I mean, do you have mold growing anywhere in your house? Do you have a leaky pipe? Do you have good, clean drinking water? Is there something that's compromising your drinking water? When we've got an eclipse like this, it can cause Neptunian water-ruled issues to pop up in our life. So, and on that topic, I should have said that for Uranus as well, there can be problems with electricity. So do check your electrical wiring if you've got Uranus in a conjunction here. But with Neptune, check on the water issues and, you know, potential for flooding and all that kind of stuff as well. With Pluto here, natally at 21 degrees of Libra, there's likely to be some massive personal change happen in your life. Not only because the eclipse is triggering it, but because you will be still in orb of your Pluto square, which is a midlife transit. I talk about this in my midlife astrology course. If you haven't taken that course and you're going through a Pluto square to Pluto, do check that course out. It's currently on sale. It will teach you so much about how to handle the Pluto square, which is one of the most difficult and one of the most life-changing transits a person can go through. There's actually 4 transits that will change your life like nothing else, and Pluto square Pluto is one of those 4. And I talk about it in my midlife astrology webinar, so do check that out at the Learn Astrology page at Guiding Star Astrology. But if you've got Pluto conjunct with the eclipse, that life-changing redirectioning is about to be triggered once again. So you might have the rug pulled out from underneath you, perhaps, and you might feel like you're going through a dark night of the soul, I have to say. Again, not because of the eclipse, but because of the square aspect that Pluto's making to your natal Pluto, combined by the triggering effect of this eclipse. So something in your life is about to have a complete 180-degree turnaround. Pluto is the planet that we represent through that the story of the phoenix being destroyed and then rising up again out of the ashes. So that is likely to be what you might experience with Pluto here. And there will be many of you with Pluto. It's a generational planet, so there's many of you going through that right now. This eclipse is going to trigger that change, that redirectioning, but it's asking you to take back your personal power, to own your life, to be real about your life, not to pretend anymore, not to sort of follow the structures and the systems of the world, but to stand in your truth, to stand in your power, to stand in who you're really meant to be this lifetime. Pluto is a phenomenal planet, and if we work with him wisely, if we work with him with great flexibility and allowance for the changes he wants to bring, we can accomplish incredible things. But if we fight Pluto, well, like the phoenix, we can be destroyed, and we will have to pull ourselves up and rise from the ashes in some way. So I just can't stress it strongly enough. Please take that course if you are finding this this eclipse brings difficulty because you have Pluto conjunct with your natal, Pluto conjunct with the eclipse in Libra. And that's our look at all the planets that are being triggered by the eclipse. For some of you, you might like to also do some research. I'm not going to go into them here because if I discussed every point, every asteroid, every significant point, we'd be here all day and we wouldn't get to the other important bits of this reading. But you may like to do some research around you having 23 degrees of Libra as your ascendant or as your descendant, as your midheaven, as your IC. You might like to do some research around whether you have any antitia points or contra antitia points at the 21 degrees of Libra, or midpoints at 21 degrees of Libra, or Brigu Bindu points at 21 degrees of Libra. If you don't know what antitia and contra antitia points are, if you don't know what midpoints and Brigu Bindu points are, then I have videos all about those things, at the Patreon family. There's a whole catalogue of wonderful astrological information at the Patreon family that you can, go back through. Great library of information and learn more astrology. So I'll catch you there if you want to know how these points might be being activated by the eclipse. Now let's have a look at the Saros cycle for this eclipse. Well, this Saros cycle is known as 7 South. So that's the name of this particular Saros cycle, and it began on the 22nd of June in 1248. Saros cycles are very big, long sets of eclipses that repeat every 18 years. So it began back then. We're at the halfway point, or getting towards the halfway point of this eclipse cycle. And when we're at the midway point, the halfway point, the eclipses become more potent, more powerful, more strong. But this eclipse set or cycle, Saros cycle 7 South, will finish on July the 26th, 2492. So it's got a ways to go yet. We're only halfway. And this series of eclipses that repeats, like I said, every 18 years, it's not every 19 years like the metonic cycle does. This is not the metonic cycle that we're looking at. It's the Saros cycle. This set of eclipses carries the energy of the initial eclipse birth chart. So what does I mean by that? The chart of the eclipse that occurred on the 22nd of June, 1248. So I'm not going to get that chart up for you to look at here, but I'll tell you that in that chart, that original chart, Pluto was trining the eclipse, whereas in this chart, Pluto's squaring the eclipse. So we know that Pluto in the original chart was a very key factor, and we need to pay attention to what Pluto's doing in the chart of this eclipse, and Pluto's interacting with this eclipse. So Pluto is, I would say, the key planet to observe regarding this Saros cycle of eclipses and how it's exhibiting this time around. Also in the original chart, Mars was squaring that Pluto placement. And what does Mars and Pluto square indicate? Well, it indicates power, anger, and force, and even a blockage of power and anger and force that comes out like a volcano. So this eclipse cycle carries that imprint. It's an eclipse that's focused on power, focused on anger, focused on force. So we do need to be very careful. As I've said, it's going to be an eclipse that affects the leadership. So can be power, anger, and force within leadership positions now as a result of this eclipse. There can also be great blockages in your life personally because of this eclipse that get blown apart, and in many cases that's going to be a good thing. If you're feeling stuck in a rut, if you're feeling limited in life, if you're feeling blocked, this is like someone puts a stick of gelignite into that blockage and it's blown apart almost by magic. But think about it, when you blow up a blockage, then let's say a dam wall, everything just comes rushing out. So big life change can be, blockage can be shifted, but then what happens afterward in the aftermath of that blockage being removed? Everything changes, everything shifts, everything redirections itself. But the blockage can be shifted. Now, with low levels of consciousness, and I know that's not going to be people who are watching this video. I know that the people who follow me are very high levels of consciousness. I know that from all the beautiful comments that are left on my videos each week. But for people with low levels of consciousness, this ending of a blockage, might cause a crisis that rips the rug out from underneath their lives in some sort of manner that shocks them and they lose their footing. That's what it means to have the rug ripped out from under you. You lose your footing, you lose your balance, despite the fact that this eclipse is in Libra. So for those of us with a higher level of consciousness, those of us who've learned to go with the flow and say, universe, I trust you, I trust that you have my back, we go with the changes. We flow with the new that's coming in under this eclipse, and we release what is no longer serving us. Okay? So low level and high level of consciousness can cause different results. whatever happens in your life as a result of this Saros cycle eclipse, the changes are going to happen rapidly. They're going to happen fast. So get ready. Here they come. And get ready, one and all, because now we're going to be looking at how this eclipse is going to affect us, one and all, with the eclipse moving through each sign. So the new moon eclipse at 21 degrees of Libra, let's begin with Libra naturally enough. So obviously, if you are Libra rising, Libra sun, Libra moon people, this eclipse is falling in the first house for you. That depends on whether you're casting a chart from your sun, your moon, or your rising sign. You can do all three. And I encourage you to check out all three signs. So this is occurring on the 15th of October in Australia. It could be the 14th of October in other parts of the world. This eclipse is all about expecting sudden changes, especially as this eclipse is caused by the south node of the moon. We will be letting go. There's something that's being let go of with this eclipse. An important turning point is arriving in our life. Blessing can unfold for us because it's conjunct with the fixed star Spica that I've spoken about. And there can be sudden removals of blockage in your life thanks to the Saros cycle. So let's explore now what this is all about. For Libra, it's going to affect your body, your physical self. So you might have a blockage in your body somewhere, like literally a health blockage, a physical block that gets blasted out now. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you've been having trouble walking or something because there's been an injury to your foot or something, and there can be healing that comes. This is actually quite a healing. To have this in the first house can be healing because it redirections us into a positive way when we have this eclipse falling in an angular house on the fixed star Spica. So great blessing of releasing of blockages, like with some health condition or some health issue, can happen now. There can also be, because this is falling on the relationship axis, the release of something in a relationship that's been holding the relationship back, or it could be the release of something in your life that's been keeping you from being your authentic self in relationship. Something is blasted away so that it changes everything. It changes, a blockage is released in a relationship. A blockage is released in you that's been impacting your relationship now. It can also look like great blessing unfolds in your life regarding a relationship coming in, or a new person entering into your life, or an up-leveling of the relationship that you've been in. But always, 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 when the eclipse occurs in your house, the house of you, the first house, that change in relationships, because it's on the relationship axis, is going to come from something that you instigate. Don't sit back and rest on your laurels saying, oh, well, that the universe will just bring about the change. No, it's going to be something that you have the impetus to change, that you have the desire to redirect relationally. So it's going to come from you. You're going to be the one to change the circumstances of your life so that you have a better relationship, or that you're honored more in the relationship that you are in. You might also, with this eclipse falling in the first house, have a great deal of intuition about how you need to take steps forward to protect yourself, to thrive, to survive into the future. I know I have quite a few friends who've got a Libran stellium or a Libran prominent in their chart. So you will be looking at new ways to thrive in this world that we're living in, and trust your instinct on that. If you get over the sort of the activation period of the eclipse, sort of a week before and a week after, if you get the insight that, oh, I need to start this business, or I need to go and study law, or I need to start working with the downtrodden and the disadvantaged, whatever inspires you to take a new path or to look into something new during that week before and after the eclipse, take it. Trust your gut on that. Trust your instinct, because you will be receiving downloads of information from the divine about ways to change your life so that you can survive and thrive. First house is a house of how we survive and thrive. Quite simply, Libra, the first house in any chart, regardless of what sign is there, the first house is about thriving and surviving, because what have we got to do before we start eating? What have we got to do before we start building an empire? We have to live, we have to breathe, we have to physically exist. So it's about initiating new things, it's about surviving. So you have great intuition about what you need to do in your life to survive and to thrive in this current world that we're living in. There can be changes, sudden changes in your life that come because of this eclipse that will lead you to start new entrepreneurial endeavors. The first house has to do with entrepreneurial activity. So don't be surprised if you get sort of inspired to do some sort of entrepreneurial, new startup, new business, or create some new product, or design some new technology or something like that. You will be inspired with some sort of entrepreneurial idea as a result of this eclipse. So listen when you're getting those, juicy downloads for ways that you can, put your creative energy into, things you can put your creative energy into. As I've already mentioned, it can be it's a very healing placement to have this new moon falling in your first house. So the healing of the body, we've already talked about, but there can be healing of your life in some way. First house is our life. So if you have felt like you can't survive and thrive, there can be a healing of that circumstance. And suddenly you find a way, the healing of the ability to survive and thrive and, flourish in this existence. There can also be, because the first house actually pertains to our journey through life and what the soul is going to experience in this journey through life. First house kind of sums it all up, so to speak. And here, there is definitely this eclipse bringing you new ideas for career, for home, for relationships, new ideas for making money, for learning new things, developing new skills. Like all of life is kind of summed up in the first house, really. So sudden changes and healing that can occur in all areas of life, healing of finances, healing of relationships, healing of career issues. Big changes regarding that sort of thing, my beautiful Libran friends. Eclipses can do that sort of thing, especially when they're conjunct with the fixed star Spica. Now, if you happen to have your rising degree at 21 degrees, 22 degrees, or 23 degrees of Libra, or if you have your sun or your moon there, know that there is blessing awaiting you with this eclipse because of the fixed star Spica and her involvement in this eclipse chart. Finally, I would also suggest that an eclipse occurring here can lead to a new start in popularity. You might find, like I've got my moon here at this placement along with Uranus that are being triggered by this eclipse, and so it is possible that I might have a rise in YouTube following in some way. There can be a raising of popularity because the eclipse is falling in either the first house of the moon or of the sun or of the rising sign. So that's one manifestation that might be possible with this eclipse. If you are, working with many clients, you might have an increase in the amount of clients that you've got. If you are, running an architectural consultancy business or something, all of a sudden you might have more work than you can possibly handle because there is an increase in the popularity of what you're offering to the world. First house is you and how you show up in the world and what you offer through being yourself to the world. So there is likely to be an increase in popularity because of that. So that's my little touch on the eclipse falling in the first house for Libran people. For full details, and I'm going to go into greater depth now on my Patreon family page, I'm going to go into great depth for what this means with further influence for my Patreon members. So if you want to join the Patreon family, it's only $5 a month. Head over to the link in the description below, join us and get the extended version of what is going to happen as a result of this eclipse for all. Thank you, lovely Librans. Okay, we're going to move along now and we're going to have a look at Virgo and how the chart of this eclipse is going to be playing out in the life of Virgo rising, Virgo sun, or Virgo moon people. Well, the eclipse is falling in the second house, and this, of course, the eclipse is occurring on the 15th of October in my part of the world, possibly the 14th of October where you are in the world, and it's happening at 21 degrees of Libra, your second house, Virgo. So here in the second house, you can expect sudden changes that are caused by this eclipse, but they're involved because of the conjunction with the South Node of some letting go. So it's a period of endings, a period of letting go. Also an important turning point with finances, with your self-worth, with your value systems arrives. So you're changing your money, you're changing your budget, you're changing what you consider now to be important in your life, to be valuable in your life, and redirectioning it to something else. Some event could also happen that changes how you handle your money and how you spend your money as a result of this eclipse, Virgo. I feel, though, for many of us that this is going to be an energy of blessing because of the conjunction of this eclipse with Spica. So there could be some prosperity that comes in your life, some growth of wealth, some growth of material abundance in some way, because that's what Spica is all about, particularly if you have your second house cusp in conjunction with this 21st degree, I should say, of Libra. There's also likely to be some removals of blockage in your life because of the energy of the Saros cycle. So I really feel for many of you, if you have financial blocks or material blocks in your life, that could be blown apart now. And if that happens, just get ready for all the, the big change that will come once that blockage is removed. It could happen quickly, it could happen suddenly for you. So maybe you've been blocked, you've been wanting to move into a bigger house, or maybe, your bank account's been in the red for some time, and you want to get it into the black, and then that blockage to getting there comes your way through some event, some circumstances, maybe a pay rise, maybe you earn some money with a jam stall at the local farmer's market or something, but something happens that releases that block in your life, and suddenly everything's off and running and the wheels are turning smoothly again. In fact, they're racing, This is also in Libra, so there's some give and take relationships that are likely to be being impacted by finance. So this is when I say give and take. You might have a need to share your material resources with another now, and in fact, it's a good idea to do so. If somebody's in need, if somebody's struggling, give, be generous. Equally, you might have a need to ask for material support from somebody else under this eclipse to release that blockage. Don't be afraid to do so. This eclipse is one of give and take because it's in the sign of Libra. So we can see that this eclipse can be bringing some changes to our financial situation or our material situation. We can also see it changing our value system. Now, I've mentioned this already. Maybe up until this point, you are quite happy, maybe you're working as a cleaner or something like that. Virgo likes to clean. You're working as a cleaner and only getting paid minimum wage, and you're okay with that because, hey, maybe that's all I'm worth. Well, along comes this eclipse, boom, in your second house, and it like a bomb. It blows apart that block to your deservability and your sense of worthiness. And after this point, you go out to all your cleaning clients and you say, I'm going to be upping my charge by $20 an hour. So if you don't like it, that's all right, but I'll find somebody else who will like it. So I'm owning my value. I'm owning my worth. I'm no longer going to work for nothing. I'm going to get what I deserve with my cleaning or whatever business it is, whatever circumstance that involves getting money and getting resources and getting material support for your life. You're going to change your value system and change to start getting what you deserve as a result of this eclipse. This is also a house of self-sufficiency, my Virgo friends. So something might be starting now. New moons are about starting new things. It's with the South Node, so there can be a releasing and an ending in some way. Something might be ending so that you can start something in order to become more self-sufficient, to make your own money instead of depending on the company, to generate your own electricity instead of relying on the grid or the faulty green power, to be able to get access to public transport instead of depending on getting a carpool or something like that. Something that you can be a bit more self-sufficient in. I would actually probably suggest maybe a bike would be more self-sufficient than getting a carpool or something. But you know what I'm trying to say here. Some situation in your life is ending where you've been dependent on somebody else or something else, and it's moving you into a state of being more independent and self-sufficient with resources. That's what this eclipse can also bring about. I've mentioned a turning point with a financial situation. It might bring in new financial opportunities that you didn't see coming, so you really need to keep your eyes peeled with the energy around this eclipse. Look for opportunities to make new money. Look for opportunities to invest, because lo and behold, they're going to be there waiting for you. Big turning point with that sort of thing. And I would encourage you under this eclipse energy to trust your intuition regarding what feels safe and what feels secure to you now. If you feel like, the area where you're living is actually not safe and secure, because the second house has to do with that feeling of stability and solidness and safety. If you feel that where you're living is not a safe and secure place, then this eclipse might trigger a need to look somewhere else, find somewhere else to live that does feel safe, that does feel secure. If you feel like your access to food is not safe and secure, food scarcity or something like that, then trust your intuition regarding where you feel what you need to do to get a safe and secure food supply. Maybe you need to go and buy some chickens or something like that so you can have your own eggs and you're not sort of subject to the whims of the market with eggs and that kind of thing. Trust your intuition, Virgo, regarding what feels safe and what feels secure to you at this point. And that's all that I've got to share for my YouTube channel about the effect of this eclipse for you guys, but I have so much more to say that I'm going to be sharing with my Patreon family. If you want to join the Patreon family, it's only $5 a month. Do pop over there now, because you will get not only an extended reading of how this eclipse is going to be affecting you this time around, but also the upcoming full moon eclipse as well. You'll get a video on that too. So there's never been a better time to join the Patreon family for $5 a month and get the extended report for what this eclipse holds and what will be unfolding. I'll catch you at the Patreon family. All right, thank you, Virgo. Now moving on to Leo. Leo rising, Leo sun, and Leo moon people. For our Leo friends, we are having the eclipse that's occurring on the 15th of October in Australia, 14th of October in other parts of the world. It's falling for us down here in our third house, and this is if you're Leo rising, Leo sun, and Leo moon. So we can expect sudden changes, and especially letting go of things in order to allow new things in, occurring with a third house theme. What does this actually then look like? What are the fruits for Leo people? Well, I think for many of us as Leos, and of course I'm a Leo sun, there can be big changes in our point of view or our mental perspective, because this is the realm of the chart that tells us how we think and how we process things mentally. And so this eclipse is going to sort of cause us to let go of a particular pattern of thinking, or maybe a logical way of thinking, so that we can let in perhaps a more divinely inspired way of thinking, or a more spiritual way of thinking, for example. There's a letting go of a way of thinking in order to let in some new way of thinking. But there's an important turning point with our mind, with how we think. And if you've been feeling, for months like, you're depressed, or you're sad, or you're anxious and worried, all those sort of heavy energies, this eclipse can be a blessing in disguise, where it shifts you out of that rut with negative thinking and allows you to be more joyful, more upbeat, more positive. So that can be a blessing, obviously, for many Leo people. Change in our mental perspective, and an important turning point arrives. Not only that, an important turning point can arrive if you run your own business, because our small businesses are seen through Mercury, ruler of the sign of ruler of the third house, or general correspondent to the third house, but also the third house is about small business as well. And so there can be an important turning point that arrives for many Leo people who have their own small business or their own entrepreneurial endeavor. You might find that your business was just ticking along, or you were feeling really like, oh my goodness, I can't keep doing this, I keep losing money, things have got to change, and boom, in comes the eclipse, and some blockage is released. Something sort of like some bomb releases that that blockage to your small business, and things start to flow, things start to come, things start to really chuff along for you. Not only because this important turning point arrives, but because there's going to be, the Saros cycle is about releasing blocks. So blocks to your mental perspective, blocks to a small business, and maybe the use of your skills and the use of your abilities to generate an income for yourself. If there's been blockage there, boof, this eclipse comes along and knocks it out of the water. But just be prepared, Leo, that once that blockage, let's say to the dam, has been removed, in it comes like a flood and you are overwhelmed. Get ready. This eclipse can operate in that fashion, and you can end up sort of feeling, oh my goodness, I'm drowning here because I'm so busy with my business now. Get ready. You might find that you will have, because this can be, with certain combinations in this area of the chart, there can be some prophetic energy. If you get sort of big intuitive hunches now, or just a feeling, a prickling of your thumbs or psychic downloads, I want you to trust them. This eclipse could be triggering messages from the divine being spoken to you at this time, especially because of the interaction with Pluto, and Pluto in the Saros cycle initial chart, giving that psychic download and intuitive ability that's really, really strong. This is the realm of the chart that has to do with brothers, sisters, neighbors, and friends that we don't choose, like friends we meet like in a workshop group or that kind of thing. And it's likely because this eclipse is all about changes, and it has to do because of the South Node's involvement with letting go. You might be letting go of a connection to a sibling or a neighbor, or maybe a group, a small group, a workshop group that you're part of. It could also indicate big changes in the life of your neighbors or in the life of a sibling, particularly I would say your younger sibling. If you are say the oldest or a middle sibling and there's somebody younger than you, it's that sibling that's going to possibly be affected by this eclipse. Their life might be turning around 180 degrees because of this eclipse. Yes, so there's a change of connection or a change in the life of that person. This is also the realm of the chart that has to do with good news. Or news in general, actually, not just good news, just receiving news. So expect that this is an eclipse that's going to bring some news into your life. Something might shock you, something might horrify you, something might delight you, something might uplift you, but there's going to be some news that comes into your life that will affect you in some manner. Okay? The other thing I want to talk about is that this is falling in the sign of Libra, which is about give and take. So there's an emphasis about this eclipse with sort of a give and take energy, if you can give of your knowledge, give of your insight, communicate, third house, your wisdom, your understanding with others, you will receive back appreciation, Leo. You will receive back, maybe dedicated students. You will receive back a good affirmation or good verbal praise, things like that. There's a give and take energy that comes with this eclipse as well. I think that for many of you Leo people, a turning point is going to arrive with a skill or a talent. Maybe you've been trying for years to master leatherworking and you just can't quite get it. You love it, but I just can't master it. I remember when I was in high school and I did a pottery class, I could not get the knack of using that wheel. Try as I might, my things were always off to the side or a bit funny looking. This could be a turning point. I'm a Leo sun. This could be a turning point for me with my skills on the pottery wheel, Maybe I'm about to suddenly be able to manage a pottery wheel really well. But this eclipse does indicate removal of a blockage and a turning point being reached with some skill or some talent, some ability that you have been trying to cultivate. Remember, this is an upachaya house, a house that gets better with age. And so, maybe you were useless at something, like maybe calligraphy or something. You just couldn't do it when you were younger. If you had a crack now, this eclipse might give you like the best ability as a calligraphist or a potter or leather worker or whatever it might happen to be. A turning point could also arrive for you with a business idea. If you're running a small business, fabulous, which I've already talked about. But what if you are trying to cultivate a business idea? Trying to come up with some new concept. Maybe you've been hosting a podcast or something like that, and the podcast has been going reasonably well, but it hasn't been sort of what cracking the way you wanted it to. And lo and behold, along comes this eclipse in your third house, and you get a business idea that's going to take that podcast to the next level. Or maybe you've just been searching for a business idea because you want to leave your crappy job and just work for yourself, and you're like, I don't know what I could do. Well, along comes this eclipse, and it's like light bulb, and you know exactly what to do, what way to go, what's going to generate a lucrative and profitable business for yourself. So it's something to look forward to for many Leo people who are so creative and full of wonderful ideas. You're going to get more of them as a result of this eclipse. Now, in ancient astrology, this placement was considered to be the natural house of the moon. In fact, the moon gives very powerful positive results when she's in the third house. And it's also the house that was an indicator of priestesses who were messengers of the gods, if the moon was there. So I think for many of you Leo people, this eclipse is going to trigger a message in your life that you're going to need to share with humanity in some way. Maybe through having a podcast, maybe through a YouTube channel, maybe through writing a blog or putting a journal article together or something like that. I feel that this eclipse is going to sort of give you an aha, another light bulb moment that is a divinely inspired inspiration, a communication that the universe wants you to be the mouthpiece for. Remember, Mercury, it was the messenger of the gods. Third house, when the moon is here, represents priestesses who are messengers of the gods. So regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, there could be, because the moon is a part of this eclipse, obviously, there could be a message that the universe wants you to speak out. Don't be afraid, my friends, to speak your truth, Leo. And that's all I have to share for my YouTube channel. But if you want more, if you want to go really, really in depth, then pop over to my Patreon page, links in the description below. All it will cost you is $5 for the month, and you're going to get not only an extended description of how this eclipse is going to affect you personally, but also an extended description for the upcoming full moon eclipse that's occurring 2 weeks after this one. Both will be available on my Patreon page. So what a great bargain. Only $5 to get all that extra information for your sun, moon and rising sign. So pop over there, and I'll see you at the Patreon family for an extended breakdown of how this eclipse is going to affect you. Alrighty, moving on from Leo, we're going to now explore how this eclipse is going to be affecting our Cancer rising, Cancer sun, Cancer moon friends. It's going to sit nice and steady for me. Thank you, Cancer. So the eclipse is occurring on the 15th of October in Australia, but it could be the 14th of October in your part of the world, and it's happening at 21 degrees of Libra, which is in the 4th house for our Cancer people, our Cancer friends. So this is where we're going to experience maybe a letting go of something because the eclipse is falling with the south node of the moon, and maybe a letting go in order to let in something new, because it's a new moon. New moons indicate new starts, new beginnings. So letting go in order to let something in. And the 4th house has to do with family. It has to do with usually your maternal line or your parents in general, but it also has to do with your role as a parent and the way you're interacting with your children. So there can be a letting go of some attachment to family, some attachment to children that you've got within you, and you're letting that go so that a new dynamic enters in. I'm trying to think of an example. Maybe you have felt that your parents are too interfering in your life, and it's too claustrophobic. Their fingers are in every pie of your life, and you're like, oh, I've had enough of this. So you tell your parents, you need to back off a little bit. You need to give me some space here, like give space for my family to be my family. And so there's a letting go of that interaction with your parents to allow a new energy to enter in, which is a bit more autonomy in your parental experience or your family experience, That's one example. Of course, it can happen in the reverse way. Maybe your parents have had nothing to do with you, and you can say, hey, look, I'd like you to be more involved in my life, please. Maybe your children, maybe there's maybe been a confrontational experience with your children, and this eclipse comes along and you let go of that confrontational experience, and warmth and love and connection is restored with your children in some way. So what it is very much dependent on you and how and whether the IC is being triggered by this eclipse. But generally speaking, we're going to see a letting go of the old and an embracing of the new pertaining to a family dynamic in some way, some family relationship. There's an important turning point that's going to arrive in your family as a result of this eclipse energy. And I feel that for many of us, it's going to be blessed, Cancer, because this eclipse is conjunct Spica. Yes, there's some heavy aspects to Pluto and Mercury is combust, but there's so much blessing that's coming from this conjunction with Spica that I feel the results are likely to be more positive than not. I also think that the nature of the Saros cycle is about removing blocks in your life. And if you've felt that there's a block with a child or a block with your parents in some way, or this Saros cycle is designed to sort of blow that apart and get rid of that block. Just be prepared that if the blockage is removed, like the blowing up of a dam wall, all of a sudden the flood comes in. Maybe you had nothing to do with your parents for years and years and years, and you approach them and ask forgiveness, and they forgive you, you forgive them, and the blockage is removed between you and your parents. But all of a sudden they're in your life like never before, and you're like, oh, give me some breathing space, So get ready for big shifts of blockage around family issues, and it's likely to be for the best because of the conjunction with Spica. And also this is an energy of give and take because it's in the sign of Libra. So you might find that there's a need to say, look, can we balance things out? Can we harmonize things a little bit, family, so that it's not so much one-sided one way or one-sided another way? And you're trying to find that balance, that equilibrium that the scales of Libra represent with a family dynamic. Some fairness, some justice, some harmony with family is what this is all about. The fourth house also has to do with our emotional well-being. And you Cancer people, obviously, and I have 3 planets in Cancer, very emotional energy. And so trust your emotional senses now, because this eclipse here is going to make you very psychic and emotionally tuned in to what's happening around you, what's happening in your family, what's happening with your parents, what's happening in your domestic environment. You're going to be very emotionally charged up. In fact, your emotions could be quite amplified in general, and you might find that because of this eclipse, that you are just generally more emotional than usual. So A, trust your emotions, listen to what they're trying to tell you, but B, have some strategies up your sleeve to soothe your emotions. For me, when I get emotionally burnt out or frazzled in any way, I love to watch a beautiful movie that uplifts me or read a good book that makes me feel great. Pisces, I love to escape into some fantasy, of course. So that's what I do to help my emotions. But other things people do, they like to meditate or take a soak in the bath, take a walk in nature, those sorts of things. Maybe have a dance and release some blocked up energy. Have some strategies at hand for if your emotions, just overwhelm you. Even just having a sleep and sleeping it off is a great thing to do. Okay? This eclipse can also bring Cancer a turning point with a maternal figure now. Very interested to notice this for my Cancer friends. I have a few friends who are Cancer who have been, needing to see shifts with the dynamic with a mother figure. So I hope that's what it brings for them in a positive way. Maybe their mother in this, whatever circumstance decides to make a change that's going to benefit everybody in the family. That's the fourth house. Fourth house can be mother figures or maternal figures. It could be that mum decides she's going to move closer to home, closer to where you live, and be there for you more. It could be that a mother figure decides that she's going to retire and it's well and truly time that she did. It could be that a mother figure decides that she needs to sort of get back into the workforce rather than just sitting at home all the time now that the kids have flown the coop. It's a shift for our parent, our maternal figure in some way, a turning point for some dynamic, could be any dynamic with a maternal figure, Cancer. Now, there's also likely to be a turning point or a new beginning, new moon, with a home situation, a domestic situation, or a garden, or a bricks and mortar home. Now, this could mean, because it's in Libra, that you're beautifying your home, making your home more stylish, more attractive, more beautiful, or creating a beautiful garden. Like, obviously, Libra is ruled by Venus, which rules flowers, putting more flowers in and maybe more sweet fruits in your garden or something like that. There is this desire that will be triggered by this eclipse to change homes. If you don't love your home, if you don't sort of feel that your home is fabulous, if you're a bit like about your home, you'll be wanting a home that you're more in love with, because Venus rules Libra. Venus rules Libra. Venus is to be in love, and you're going to want a home that you actually do love. So hence, you're going to be making it more beautiful so you love it more, or you'll be looking for a new home so that you can actually be in love with the place where you live, the environment that you live, even the community that you live. So many of you Cancer people might be looking for a new home or to change a home situation for the better in some way. So I'm excited by this for my Cancer friends, because I know it's just what they need. Thank you, my Cancer friends here on YouTube, for following along with this report. But if you want more juicy details, and I go into great depth, I spend a lot of time breaking this down in other ways for your sign, then head over to the Patreon page. The link's in the description below. Sign up. You only have to sign up for a month if that's all you want. You can sign up for a year or longer if you like, but $5 a month is all it will cost you to get this report in an extended version. Plus, you'll also be eligible for the report in the extended version for the next eclipse that's occurring in 2 weeks' time, that I'm going to do on my Patreon family site as well. So head on over there, join us at the Patreon family, and find out more details about how this eclipse will be affecting you. And now we're moving on to our lovely Gemini rising, Gemini sun, and Gemini moon placements. If you have a placement like that in Gemini, just know that we are looking at the eclipse falling for you in the 5th house. Now, the eclipse is occurring on the 15th of October in Australia, or the 14th of October in other parts of the world, and it's happening at 21 degrees of the sign of Libra here. This is an eclipse where we can expect sudden changes, because that's what eclipses do. They bring in sudden, unexpected events, but it's going to involve a letting go, because of the north node of the moon being conjunct with this eclipse, a letting go of something in order that a new beginning can start. So there's a real ending, a new beginning kind of feel to this eclipse. And it's occurring in the 5th house. So this could all be pertaining to your children or to a lover. So it could be affecting them and not you. So your children are ending something and starting something new. Maybe you've got a child who's ending primary school and about to start high school. Maybe you've got a child who's ending their phase as a child dependent on you, and they're starting a new job, they're starting a new career, ending new beginnings. It could also mean that for a lover, something is ending and beginning. It doesn't mean that the love is ending. It could mean that for the lover, something is ending and something is beginning. It could be that, maybe they were sick of their old crappy job and they're going to end their job and start a new one because of this eclipse. Or maybe they were living a long way away from you, and because of this eclipse, they're going to move closer. Something happens and they get the ability to come live nearer to you. So end of the road with something and a new beginning with something else for lovers and children, for example. Now, not only that, but this is the energy of a new turning point arriving for you with your creativity and your ability to tap into your childlike heart. So the 5th house is children, but it's also our childlike joy. What gave us pleasure and delight and happiness when we were 10, 11, 12, just coming out of our young childhood experience. What gave you joy at that stage of life? What did you spend most of your time doing? Well, that's an important key to remember, because often that indicates what we'd like to be doing with our lives, what our purpose and mission is. And I'll just touch on this fact. 5 houses from the 5th takes us to the 9th house of our purpose and our dharma. So what you did when you were a child is very linked to what should be your purpose and dharma for this lifetime is. one thing, I'll just give an example. One thing that I loved to do when I was a child was build cubby houses and decorate them and make sort of woven mats for them and all sorts of things. And renovating houses in the early part of my life was certainly my purpose and dharma. I wanted to make the world a more beautiful place, one house at a time, renovating and building beautiful homes. Also, when I was a child, I loved the stars, absolutely obsessed with astronomy. I loved it. Watched documentaries, had sticker books, you name it. And what do I do now? My purpose and dharma, everything about the stars, knowing about their actions, their rotations, their dynamics, their distances from the sun and all that stuff, and their astrology, obviously. So love it. Look at what floated your boat when you were a child, and it will give you an indication of what is actually your purpose and dharma in this lifetime if you can incorporate it into your life. But I digress. I don't really digress. This eclipse will be triggering for you an understanding of what you loved as a child, what your passion was as a child, your childlike heart that you can tap into now to help you with your destiny and your future. So pay attention to that. Do some meditation on that. Think about, what did you love? What was your passion? Fifth house has to do with passions and delights. It's our hobbies, it's our interests, it's things that give us joy, and it's our childlike heart, as I said. So there could be an important turning point with something that gives you joy, something that is triggering that childlike heart in you. There can also be some removals of blocks around your ability to utilize your passions and your joys in your everyday life. So this is the Saros cycle. It's like I described in the introduction, that the Saros cycle is like a bit of a bomb. It blows apart the block. So maybe you had a block to being able to enjoy your hobbies or use your hobbies in your mission and your purpose for life. Well, along comes this Saros cycle and away it goes, blows apart that blockage, and you're up and running. But just realize that when a blockage is blown apart, sometimes the floodgates open. So you might suddenly start being able to use that love of astronomy or the ability to sort of renovate houses or something, and all of a sudden you're overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, I'm busier than I ever thought as an astrologer, or I've got 5 houses I'm renovating at once, and oh my god, I just don't know which way to turn. I'm just so overwhelmed because the block has been removed and now I'm just running with it. That could be great. It could be fun. It could be wonderful. So just be prepared for the floodgates to open. Blessing unfolds. Remember that this eclipse is conjunct Spica. So this is the house of luck as well. So you could get really lucky as a result of this eclipse in whatever way feels meaningful for you. Maybe you want to renovate a house because it's, a passion to redecorate a house, and you go to an auction and you just get lucky because it gets passed in for next to nothing and you can buy that house for cheap. Or maybe you get really lucky because, you're a really good friend with an astrologer and you want to study astrology with them, and they say, yeah, I've got room for you in my course and my classes, come on board. In fact, I'll give you a $100 discount. Boom, lucky with a hobby, with an interest that you want to develop into a meaning and a purpose for life. There could be some unexpected opportunities that come your way as a result of this eclipse for you to show your natural creativity. And if that happens, take that opportunity. Don't hesitate. Could be an art show, could be a theatre production or a film role. Some unexpected opportunity for you to really run with your creative capacity. That can happen because of this eclipse. Some people might get lucky, and they might actually get lucky. Like, I'm not talking about getting laid, getting lucky, but I'm talking about, although that can happen with the 5th house, if you're inclined that way. But I'm more meaning you might win some kind of a prize now, especially if you've got the chart for it and you have an auspicious blessed planet at 21, 22 or 23 degrees of Libra in the 5th house. Gemini could be your lucky day. Go and buy that Tats Lotto ticket, or take that bet on the horses, or enter that meat raffle at the local club. There could be good things in store for my Gemini people in terms of luck now. Do check out, that being the case, I would almost, I'm scratching my third eye. Okay. Check out the time of the eclipse in your part of the world. Do a Google search on that and go buy your house lottery ticket or your meat raffle ticket or whatever at that time. That would be my suggestion. The exact time of the eclipse. What else can happen as a result of the eclipse? Well, there could be romantic gestures that flourish in your life now. Somebody might surprise you by wearing their heart on their sleeve. You mightn't have even had any idea that somebody was in love with you or wanted to take you on a date, and they ask you out for coffee, or run up to you with some flowers in the street or something. Some romantic gesture that catches you off guard and surprises you and comes out of the blue. How exciting, how lovely, how wonderful, how fifth house, my beautiful Gemini friends. Now, the sun is the key activating planet in this eclipse because it's the planet that's getting eclipsed. It's a solar eclipse after all. So a man, solar, might pave the way for a rise in celebrity popularity for you now, because this is the house of celebrity, being a celebrity. So if you've got in your chart the potential for you to be popular, well recognized and known, this could be a triggering energy, and it will usually come through some opportunity provided to you by a man, probably an older man or a man in a position of authority. I feel could give you a rise in some celebrity opportunity. How exciting. So my Gemini friends, that is what I'm seeing as playing out for you because of this eclipse. I have much, much more to say about how this will be affecting you, but I'm sharing that at my Patreon family. The link's in the description below if you want to go there and find out more. It's only $5 a month to join, and you get so much information. You get forecasts, 2 extra forecasts every month. You get information all about astrology if you want to learn astrology every month. It's great. I have a lot of Patreon followers who've been very faithful and loyal to me for many, many years now since I've been running it, and they love it. We love one another. So do head over to the Patreon family, join up. You'll get this extended report on your sign. Plus, in a couple of weeks' time, there's also going to be an extended report for the full moon eclipse that will be occurring as well. Thank you, Gemini and Taurus. Taurus rising, Taurus sun, and Taurus moon people. Well, the energy of this eclipse is going to be impacting your 6th house, Taurus. And of course, this eclipse is occurring on the 15th of October in Australia, or the 14th in most other parts of the world. And it's happening at 21 degrees of Libra, Libra being your 6th house. So this is where we can expect some sudden changes that come out of the blue, but it's going to involve letting go because it's with the south node of the moon. You're going to be releasing something out of your life so that a new beginning, new moon, can start for you. And this is going to relate to 6th house things. It's an important turning point that's arriving. And I think that will have a lot to do with health for many Taurus people. This is the house. The 6th house is the house of our health and our well-being, our diet, our exercise, and our daily routine, and how it impacts us. And so, you're probably going to be making big changes to your diet, to your exercise routine. You're going to let go of maybe some old unhealthy habits so that you can live a better quality life. Maybe you're going to start eating more organic food, or you're going to start walking every morning, getting up early and taking the time to go for a big walk to get fit and to get the blood circulating. Changes to physical health to affect your well-being. So what does that mean? That means that if you start doing that, you're saying goodbye to old eating habits and old laziness, let's say, for example, saying goodbye to that, letting that go. Out that goes with the south node, and ending that sedentary lifestyle or whatever it happens to be. And in comes the eclipse saying, I've got to be more fit, I've got to be more healthy, and you make a fresh start and turn over a new leaf in that way. It's an important turning point for health and well-being in the life. Also, the Saros cycle here indicates that there is the removal of sudden blockages in your life. And so if you felt like you just didn't have the energy to go exercise, or maybe you felt like it's too expensive for me to buy organic food, if that's a block, whether it's a perceived mental block or an actual reality, lo and behold, this Saros cycle is going to explode that blockage apart so that you can actually go and make that new start. And once you're off and running with that new start, there's going to be no stopping you. The blockage will be removed, and then the floodgates open, so to speak. In it all comes. You're fit, you're healthy, you're eating really well, and changed your life through your diet, through your exercise, for example. But the Saros cycle, very much releasing blockages, and the conjunction with Spica bringing blessing to these 6th house things. But there are some negatives because this is a very difficult house, the 6th house, and I want to just mention one of those. Firstly, you'll be more sensitized because of this eclipse falling in the 6th house. You'll be more sensitized to the pain of other people. Like, you know, maybe a friend loses their job and your heart is aching for them. Or somebody loses their father and you're like, oh my goodness, you're grieving with them. There's a sensitization to the disadvantages of life or the disappointments of life, which are seen through the 6th house now. So expect that you will be highly emotionally charged because of this eclipse relating to disadvantage and lack of well-being in the world around you. It is also possible, I have to tell you, that confrontational situations might arise now. This is the house of confrontation. And we've got a nasty little square from Pluto here that's all about anger and force and willpower. And people might be trying to sort of push your buttons now and force you to do things you don't want to do. You know, maybe the boss is demanding that you stay back and work, 3 hours overtime for no pay. And, oh my God, who wants to do that? And so there's conflict there. You stand up and you say, no way, Jose, I'm not doing that. And emotional, highly charged situations can be the result, I have to say, for my Taurus friends, okay? Confrontational situations. But usually this is a result of the frustrations that you're feeling emotionally. So you might have been sick to death of your boss for ages, asking too much of you, and then along he comes and says you've got to work 3 hours overtime, and it just is the final straw. So I encourage you, Taurus, to to protect your energy and your vibration now. Have a plan, like for how you're going to handle this energy. If you get triggered through some circumstance, how are you going to react? Plan it out in advance. See it in your mind. I'm going to remain cool. I'm going to remain calm, and I'm going to hand in my resignation and go find another job. What is your plan for a situation that might explode and become confrontational in your life? That's the negative that I wanted to mention that. This is also an eclipse where there might be a change of circumstances or a new beginning with a family pet or an animal, because this family pets and animals are seen here. So maybe you've never had a pet, along comes this eclipse, and all of a sudden someone says, can you mind my cat because I'm moving to another country? And you're like, oh, all of a sudden you've got a cat. So there's a new beginning or a change in circumstances with an existing pet, or a new pet comes into your life perhaps. That can be the case. So that's one of the manifestations that can happen. Some of you, Taurus friends, might win over a health issue. Like I've said, you can release a blockage with a health issue that changes your life now. But not only health issues, it could be a court case. This is one of the houses we look at for divorce negotiations and that sort of thing, and trying to. 6th house is about obtaining balance when things are imbalanced, and that's what a lot of the legal system is all about. There's an unfair situation, we want to try and harmonize that and balance it out. 6th house is all about trying to do so. So some of you, because of this eclipse here, might have success in a court case, or they might get involved in a court case. It's all about trying to balance out certain energies. Just be aware, if you do start a court case, if you initiate a court case under this eclipse, it's going to be very confrontational. So if you're thinking about, I'm going to take them to court and sue them for all they're worth, I'd hold off a little bit. I'd hold off for about 2 weeks until this eclipse, well, make it 4 weeks, till this eclipse and the next one are over. And then I'd go ahead. Because if you initiate a court case or some sort of conflict situation, if you initiate it under this eclipse energy, my God, it is going to blow you apart. Pluto square to this eclipse. Force, power, will. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a battle royal. Whoever you're initiating a court case against is going to come out with guns blazing. So take time, do it once the eclipse energy activation period is over, okay? If you're already in a court case, this can actually blow apart blockages with that court case. There can be an ending and a new beginning with whatever that court case happens to be about. Or look, I've used court cases here, but it could just be an interaction with a difficult person. Maybe you've got a work colleague who's just driving you batty, and this eclipse energy blows apart the blockage or the restriction or the frustration that's been there with that person, and it changes the whole dynamic. Eclipse is all about being at a turning point with a yucky circumstance. And I just do have to touch on this before I conclude for my YouTube family. I had an eclipse on my 6th house lord in the 6th house in 2017, and it actually resulted within a week of the eclipse in me losing a job. And of course, the 6th house has to do with our everyday work, the work that pays the bills, not our career aspirations and not the things that bring us joy, that, you know, purpose and dharma and all that. It's putting food on the table is the 6th house. And I lost a job, but I just want to say, if that is what occurs, it's what needs to happen. Remember, we talked about this in the introductory piece that I did for this video. If that's what occurs, it's what needs to happen, because it's likely to lead you more into your destiny, as it did with me. I lost my job. 6 months later, I was full-time astrologer, busy as anything. The floodgates had opened, and I was, staying up until 1 a.m., 2 a.m. every night doing readings because I was so busy as an astrologer. So lost a job through a very unfair set of circumstances, but it led to what has now been the biggest blessing, one of the biggest blessings in my life. So whatever happens, remember that it's for your greatest good, and it's for your destiny and purpose in your soul's incarnation in this lifetime, my friends. Even if it's something like losing a court case or losing a job or having a health issue flare up or something like that, which are 6th house based things. Okay, just wanted to mention that for my beautiful Taurus friends. Now, if you want to know more about how this eclipse might be playing out for you, you can get the entire breakdown at the Patreon family. The link's in the description below. All it costs is $5 a month. If you want to join for a month, you can. If you want to join for ever, you can. All it costs is $5 a month to get 2 forecasts, a new moon forecast every month and a full moon forecast every month, and a video teaching you how to understand astrology better every single month. So I love my Patreon family. It's a community that's really flourishing. Head over there if you want to know more about how this eclipse is going to work out and play out in your life. I'll see you over at the Patreon family. All right, Aries rising, Aries sun, Aries moon, people. The energy of this eclipse is falling in Libra, and of course Libra is the sign opposite yours. It's your 7th house. So what does this then mean for you, my Aries sun, moon, or rising sign? Well, first of all, the eclipse is occurring on the 15th of October if you're in Australia, pretty much the 14th of October in most other parts of the world, and it's happening at 21 degrees. So if your ascendant is at 21 degrees, that means your descendant is at 21 degrees, and it's falling in a conjunction with your descendant degree. If that's the case, this is going to strike you, especially this eclipse. Like, you're going to feel it, you're going to notice it more than perhaps somebody who's got their rising degree at, say, 3 degrees, something like that. So this is an eclipse that is going to bring changes. Eclipses always do, a redirectioning energy. But because this eclipse is with the south node of the moon, it indicates a period of endings and a period of letting go before something new begins. It's also an important turning point in life. And here it is in the 7th house of connections and partnerships. So relationships that have been working very well up until this time of this eclipse, we'll probably see a shift in dynamic that takes you more into the positive, especially as this eclipse is conjunct the fixed star Spica, a tremendous star of magical blessing in ancient India, and we've noticed that in Western astrology too. So it is likely, if your relationship has been healthy, that this eclipse will maybe take the relationship to the next level. Maybe you'll get engaged. Maybe you'll get married. Maybe you'll fall in love with your partner all over again. Maybe there'll be a new stage of life with your relationship with your partner that makes it more beautiful. Or even it can look like your partner being blessed in some way, perhaps. Maybe your partner gets a pay rise. Maybe your partner gets a new opportunity. Maybe some windfall comes for your partner, so there can be a lot of blessing there. But relationships that have been strained up until this point of the eclipse, lots of arguments and fighting and unhappiness in the couple, this eclipse can cause that relationships like that to actually break apart under this influence. you know, it's not something that will probably, well, it's not really something that will surprise you, because the relationship might have been fractious up until this point. I mean, do you want to keep walking on eggshells the rest of your life? Or is this, you know, you want to ask yourself, is this really the relationship for you if it's been constantly difficult? This will be the turning point. This will be a redirectioning of any relationship that didn't have the legs to go for the long haul. So what's happening here is the Saros cycle will be enacted, and I spoke about this in the introduction. And what is the Saros cycle doing? It is removing blocks, you know, usually maybe through a crisis for some people, but it's a bit like a bomb explodes in the best possible way, and away you have a sudden realization, or something occurs, some incident unfolds, and you're like, this is not the relationship for me. I'm out of here. Actually, just on that point, it's more likely that your partner will be the one to say, I'm done, it's over, see you later, because the eclipse is falling in the house of the partner. Whereas for a Libran rising person, it was falling in their first house. They were going to be the ones to say, over, done, I'm out of here. So that's what we could see happening with this eclipse. If the relationship has not been strong going into this eclipse season, there's a blockage to the change that is now removed, and you want a more equal relationship, one that has good give and take, equal balance, as is the nature of Libra, in partnership, and you're willing to say enough's enough. I'm going to go find this new relationship, and I'm out of here. So that's one thing. This also can indicate, for those of us who are single, can indicate, Aries, that you might be falling in love as a result of this eclipse. I mean, you need some other things occurring in your chart at the same time, but this is one of the biggies, the big guns to assist in a new relationship coming into your life, somebody new that you fall in love with. And it can be quite beautiful because of the conjunction with Spica. It can be a blessed union, a blessed relationship, one that feels even sort of spiritually predestined, because Spica is a star of great spirituality. So this is quite exciting for those of you who are single and looking for a partner. How lovely. So it can indicate falling in love with somebody new now. Now, this is the house of relationships, but there's so much more to the 7th house than that. And of course, the main things that the 7th house is about is contracts and negotiations and deals. It's actually a business house, so it does pertain to business partners as well. And there can be successful outcomes because this eclipse is in a conjunction with Spica. There can be successful outcomes in maybe a court case, or in dealings with lawyers, or in negotiations or mediations, or setting up a new business with someone. Creating business contracts can go very well because of this eclipse. I still wouldn't be signing anything of great significance now, but maybe you could get a contract drawn up that you're going to get somebody to sign, once this eclipse is, out of the woods, so to speak. Maybe you could be sort of reviewing the eclipse. Remember, the moon is dark, so we don't want to manifest anything until at least the moon becomes visible a couple of days after the eclipse. So it's more reviewing contracts, it's more preparing them, it's more deciding what you're going to do with regard to some sort of negotiation or agreement or business arrangement. Maybe, let's say if you're in the process of getting a divorce, it might mean going and nutting things out with a lawyer goes really well before you actually sign the legal documents and things like that. So this is a time for guidance and good counseling, speaking with lawyers, and sorting out the fine details before a contract is signed. And because of that, it can go quite well in your favor. I would also suggest that with the eclipse falling here, and it's in the sign of Libra, there might be some cultural experience that's going to really rattle your tree, or shake you out of a rut in some way. Some sort of concert that you go to, or fine dining experience, or elite shopping experience that you have that just probably makes you feel really good, makes you feel like life is expansive, and maybe even takes you down a path you never knew existed, in terms of opportunities or insights and growth of wisdom that could be yours because of those sorts of experiences. So if something like that comes along, grab it by the horns and go for it, my beautiful Aries friends. But that's all I'm going to share with our YouTube family at this stage. If you would like to know more, and I've got so much more to share about this for your sign, Aries, then I'd encourage you to come join me at my Patreon family. The link's in the description below. It only costs $5, and that's just a 1-month subscription. And in that 1-month subscription, you get the full shebang for this eclipse breakdown. Plus, you'll also get the full shebang for the full moon eclipse that's coming up in 2 weeks' time, because that will also fall in this month as well. So you'll get double whammy information about both eclipses. You'll also get a really juicy, interesting learning astrology video, because I do a learning astrology video every month. So it's really good value for $5. So come join me, find out what else is happening because of this eclipse in your life, and I'll see you at the Patreon family. Pisces rising, Pisces sun, Pisces moon, people. Well, for you guys, for we guys, because I'm Pisces too, the energy of the eclipse is falling in our 8th house. This is such an interesting placement, the 8th house. Everything's about to change, Pisces. Everything's about to turn on its head. Now, the eclipse is occurring on the 15th of October in Australia, which is pretty much the 14th of October in most other parts of the world, and it's happening at 21 degrees of Libra, your 8th house. And this is the house of sudden changes and big life turns around and 180-degree shifts. It's cataclysms, it's windfalls, it's big change. And what do eclipses usually bring? Big change. So Pisces, hang on to your hats. This is going to be quite a big shift of energy for us all. Now, involved with this change will be letting go of something, because the south node of the moon is in a conjunction here, and it's causing the eclipse actually, and the south node is to let go and release something. So I really feel that many of you Pisces people will be saying goodbye to something. Could be anything really. It could be a person, it could be a circumstance, it could be a difficulty that you've been in. Let's hope for all of we Pisces people, you're saying goodbye to a crisis, 8th house. That's entirely possible. Maybe you've been under stress, or life's been sort of like a bit touch and go. You've been biting your nails. Oh my God, what's going to happen? And lo and behold, along comes the eclipse with the point of loss and letting things go, the south node, and you say goodbye to that nail-biting experience and that scary situation that you were in, and maybe life becomes more solid now, more grounded now. You let go of the fear and the worry, and you let in all the good stuff. So let's hope that's what's about to happen for Pisces people. But it's an important turning point that's arriving for anyone with Pisces strong in their chart. Some of the things that can happen because of this eclipse might be that you might be getting some sort of amazing intuitive downloads now. Trust those goosebump moments. This is a prophetic house. So if you get an insight or a feeling in your spirit, trust it, go with it. Premonitions, prophetic influences, just inner knowing, all of these things count now under this eclipse. They are strong. So trust those goosebumps, trust those intuitions. The sun also represents men, particularly sort of fatherly figures perhaps, or some sort of authority figure. And this is a healing house actually. So some masculine person might be a source of healing for you now, Pisces. Could be a father, or some sort of fatherly person in your life might be backing you up, helping you, and potentially offering you resources and giving you the benefit of maybe their, I don't know, a room in their house, or some money, or some kind of moral support or wisdom. Some man is giving their blessing, their resources, their support to you now, Pisces, that can really help you along the road. But it is a big season of change and rebirth and regeneration for you, Pisces, especially if you've got a key point here in Libra, maybe the 8th house cusp. And for me, I'm thinking about my moon that's right there. Oh my goodness. So it's very much a season of change and rebirth and regeneration. Life is about to move in a different direction in quite a remarkable way, a turning point, an end of one way of being and an embracing of a whole new way of being. Because of this, Pisces, it can be very emotionally up and down. You will Yeah, you probably will be in quite an emotional or state for the whole duration of the eclipse season. And can I just say that you're going to need to ride it out as best you can. Just go with the flow, trust what the universe is doing, knowing that out the other side, everything's going to be different. Everything's going to be reborn. The blessing is that this eclipse is in a conjunction with Spica, the fixed star, the angelic fixed star, and she's one of the most blessed stars in the sky. The ancient Indians thought that she was the most magical and the most manifesting. So in that sense, there is a blessing here that could come. It may not all be, nail-biting stuff for us Pisces. It could be that a transformation occurs that is phenomenally blessed, because this is the house of windfalls. It's a financial house, the 8th house. The finances of your partner are usually seen through the 8th house, but the finances of other people in general. So it's the house where we get material support that is not something we've created, that we did nothing to deserve. It's a blessing house in that regard. It's, it's winning Tats Lotto, it's getting an inheritance, it's getting support that we didn't seek out or do anything to earn. So that can be the case with this eclipse falling in a conjunction with Spica. Another thing that might indicate that this is sort of a better eclipse than not, is that it's the Saros cycle indicates that it's an eclipse that's going to bring a lot of removals of blockage in our life. And if you're feeling blocked, maybe blocked by fear, blocked by worry, blocked by, being scared that the rug's going to be pulled out from underneath you, blocked because you just can't trust the universe anymore. You feel like, I can't trust the government, I can't trust humanity. This is a house of trust, I might add. You're feeling like blocked in your ability to trust life, then this is an eclipse that can sort of blow that out of the water, and you might find that, oh my goodness, the universe really does have my back. The blockage that you might be experiencing to being able to trust the universe is really shown for what it is, as the universe steps in to bless you, to hold you, to keep you. So there can be removals of blockage in your life. Maybe also there might, if you're feeling blocked in a spiritual sense, blocked in your ability to communicate with the divine, or to have a satisfactory prayer life or anything, then this eclipse can absolutely radically change that through removing whatever spiritual blocks are existing in your life. So, quite exciting for you, my Pisces people. Just remember what I said, though. This is going to be a roller coaster ride. It's not going to be a walk in the park. There's going to be a lot of upheaval. It might be touch and go for a while. You might feel like you're going through some sort of personal crisis in some way, maybe dark night of the soul even for some people. But out the other side, there is the potential for blessing because of the strength of the certain factors in this eclipse. Now, if you want more details, Pisces, about what's unfolding here, and it's quite interesting for you, I will just add, then come and join me at the Patreon family. It's only $5 a month. You get 3 videos a month for that $5 amount. That's the bronze star level. Come and join me and learn what else is going to happen to you as a result of this eclipse. The link's in the description below. I look forward to seeing you there. Alrighty, Aquarius, this is your turn now. What is happening in this eclipse for Aquarius sun, moon, and rising sign people? Well, firstly, the eclipse is falling in the 9th house. That's where things are being triggered. The eclipse is occurring on the 15th of October in Australia and the 14th of October in most other parts of the world. And this is an eclipse that is all about sudden changes coming in and transforming our life. But in order to do so, something is going to need to be released, because this eclipse is falling with the south node of the moon. So there's a letting go that's happening here. You might be letting go of something to do with the 9th house, letting go of an involvement with another culture, letting go of some aspirations to higher learning, letting go of maybe some international travel plans that you might have had, so that change of a different nature can come in and something new can be established, for example. I also feel that this eclipse for Aquarian people is going to cause a shift in your belief system. So any out-of-date sort of ideas and philosophies and beliefs that you've carried and clung to stubbornly, Aquarius, well, this eclipse is going to rip them out from under you, take them away. It's time to broaden your horizons, Aquarius. Time to, understand new ethics and new morals in some manner. So you can expect that there is going to be a letting go of the old belief systems so that new ideas, new philosophies can come in. This is an important turning point in your life, because what we believe about life and about our experiences and about who we are and about people determines the life that we have, the perception that we have of our life and the people around us and the experiences that we're having determines whether it's good or bad. Not the experience itself, but our perception of it. So your beliefs are about to change, and I hope for the better, because of the conjunction with the very angelic fixed star Spica, bringing blessing to your new understanding, blessing to your new belief systems, blessing to your faith in the goodness of the universe, really. So there's also potentially for many Aquarian people some sort of new beginning in another culture now. Some of you might be moving to live in another culture. Some of you might be interacting more with another culture. Some of you might be beginning some sort of international trade or have international clients or something like that that can come in as a result of this eclipse too. There might be a new relationship formed with a teacher or an inspirational figure as a result of this eclipse. This is somebody who could inspire you greatly or lead you and advise you like a guru would. And this can be very empowering for many Aquarian people. Even though you like to sort of go it on your own and come to your own conclusions, there's bound to be some sort of source of inspiration that enters your life as a result of this eclipse in this blessed house as well. This is one of the houses of prophecy, and so it's the house of the communication with the gods. And so under this eclipse energy, this triggering of this eclipse, your intuition might be really expanded. Trust your hunches, trust your gut feeling and your inner knowing, my beautiful Aquarian friends. It won't lead you astray because of this eclipse. So around the eclipse, if you're feeling compelled to go somewhere, do something, apply to something new, explore something new, you go for it, because your gut will not lead you astray. Your hunches will not lead you astray. Now, the Saros cycle for this eclipse is all about removing blockages in our life. And if you've had a block to experiencing other cultures, to traveling, to higher learning, maybe you need to let go of, because of the nature of this eclipse, your ideas about where you wanted to go to study law or medicine or some higher level area of learning. You need to let go of an idea about what that was going to look like and allow the new to come in. So release a block in your perspective on how you're going to study law, how you're going to study medicine, how you're going to study astrology, and allow that blockage to be broken down and released, so that a new opportunity can enter into your life to study in a different way, or to go to a different country, or experience some other sort of adventurous, life expanding experience. So what else can happen under this eclipse? Well, if you happen to be somebody who is on the hunt for a second life partner, so you've had a committed partner and maybe got divorced or something, this is a combination, my Aquarian friends, that can indicate you might be about to fall in love with somebody from a different culture. This can be due to the fact that this is in Libra, the sign of relationships. So this is the house of the second life partner. So for some of you Aquarian people, this eclipse can be triggering a new relationship entering into your life, provided you have other triggers of importance happening in your chart at the same time. So this is an important turning point. And the other thing I would just add is that this eclipse can bring an important turning point with your understanding of your dharma, your purpose and your destiny. For many people, a block to knowing what your dharma is, to knowing what your purpose is, what the meaning for your life is, might be removed now because of an event that happens around the time of the eclipse. And you might suddenly get a picture for where you want to go, who you want to be, what your life to look like. So that can be something to really look forward to, because this is the house of purpose and meaning and dharma. You might be able to start embracing your purpose, your meaning and dharma now, as old blocks to understanding that are blown away. So my beautiful Aquarian friends, This is all I'm going to share here at the YouTube channel, but I've got so much more to tell you about what this eclipse is doing for you at the Patreon family page. The link's in the description below. It only costs $5 to be a Bronze Star member and get access to 3 videos for 1 month. You can join as long as you like. You can join for a month, you can join for a year, whatever. But come and join me for an extended breakdown of what this eclipse is causing to happen in your life. You won't regret it. There's so much information and it's all pretty juicy. Alrighty, so Capricorn rising, Capricorn sun, Capricorn moon. For we Capricorns amongst us, the eclipse is going to be falling in the 10th house. And this is happening on the 15th of October in Australia and the 14th of October in most other parts of the world at 21 degrees of Libra, as you can see here. So what this eclipse is all about, as I said in the introduction, is expect sudden changes, expect a redirectioning in life or something big happening. But first, something's going to be need to let go of, because the moon and the sun are in a close conjunction, as they are for every new moon, but this is an eclipse because it's near the south node of the moon. So it's the south node of the moon that's causing the eclipse, and south node is about letting go, releasing something. So while a new moon indicates new beginnings and new starts, something has to be let go of first. So this is very much a eclipse that's going to end something in your life so that something new can come in and begin. And it's going to relate to the 10th house of career. So some of you Capricorn people might be saying goodbye to career aspirations that you've had and focusing on a new aspiration when it comes to career. Or you might be saying goodbye to an old job and starting a new job. It could indicate that a reputation that you've had, because this is the 10th house, the house of our reputation and how the world sees us. Something might be shifting and changing there. You might be saying goodbye to your old reputation as you embrace a new reputation. And of course, reputation can relate to many facets and areas of our life. We have a reputation for how we work, have a reputation for what kind of a family person we are. We have a reputation for our cleanliness or lack of cleanliness. So reputation regarding almost anything is seen through the 10th house. So something's going to change with regard to your reputation and how you're known in the world because of this eclipse, Capricorn. But it is an important turning point. Now, this is actually the axis of the parents. So mother is usually seen through the 4th house and father is usually seen through the 10th house. So this parental axis indicates that there might be some changes in the life of one of your parents, perhaps. Mostly we would see it through the father, but it could also be the mother. So one of the parents, particularly the father, might have a big life change on the doorstep. Might be, they might have lived in a certain place all their life and then suddenly they're going to move because of what the eclipse brings about here. Or they might have been in a certain career field and then they retire. Could be another expression of that. But some big change in the parents. Potentially, there also might be a big turning point with regard to your mother-in-law as well. If you are a Capricorn person, this is the house of the mother-in-law. So if you've got a great relationship with your mother-in-law, something could happen because of this eclipse that sours the relationship. And also the reverse. If you've got an awful relationship with your mother-in-law, this eclipse could bring about some circumstance that really empowers a beautiful relationship with your mother-in-law. Or it could just be that this eclipse is affecting your mother-in-law. Maybe she's moving to another country, or maybe she's starting a new job, or learning to study something new. There could be just a shift and a change in the life of your mother-in-law as a result of this eclipse. Potentially a significant man, because the sun is the masculine energy here. There could be a significant man or a significant authority figure who pushes you into greater worldly success. That can happen because the 10th house is about how the world sees us. And it's the most visible house. It's the house where the sun is highest in the sky at midday, when everything is brightest and illuminated. 10th house. That's what the midday is all about. And so, as above, so below, it's where we're most visible. So there is potentially this eclipse could introduce you to some significant man or person of power who could thrust you into the limelight, into visibility, into like almost a celebrity status, or giving you more recognition. Now, the extent of that probably depends on the capacity of your chart to be a celebrity. But, for example, you might be in some local community of 100,000 people or so, and you get on the front page of the local newspaper or something like that. You are put in a position of recognition within your community. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be the next Beyonce or something like that. So there is this level of recognition that might come your way because of this eclipse falling in the 10th house. It could also generate, for many of you watching this, some position of leadership, some level of upgrading your status in some way to a higher position of leadership. But of course, because this eclipse is with the South Node, something might need to end in order for you to move into that leadership position. So for example, maybe, you had every Saturday to yourself for years and years and years, and then you're put into a leadership position where you're going to be coaching the junior league team, and there goes your Saturdays, your loss of your Saturday and freedom because you've taken on a position of leadership. There's an example there. So there can be some leadership in any field that comes into your life, but it's a turning point for you. And it can be this eclipse can be a turning point with one way of doing career and obtaining success, and you start a different strategy with how you're going to do your career and obtain success. So there mightn't be a perceivable role shift, but it could be that this eclipse brings about a different attitude for you in how you're achieving your success and how you're showing up in the world. And you change the dynamic, and you change your attitude towards being in a position of leadership or towards the career that you're in. Some people might discover the career of their dreams because of this eclipse, especially if it's falling with your midheaven, your MC point. And it could be such a blessing because the fixed star Spica is at 23 degrees here. So if that's the case, you are likely to be very blessed in career as a result of this eclipse falling on that point, if you've got your MC sort of between 21 to 23 degrees of Libra. So you are likely to discover the career of your dreams if this is the case. Other people can too, if there's other triggers in your chart that are forming and being activated now. So finding, it's not so much your meaning and purpose, but finding the legacy that you want to leave the world, because that's the 10th house too. The 10th house is what we want to be remembered for when we're gone, whereas the 4th house is the legacy that we're given from those who've gone before us. This 10th house is the legacy we want to leave to those who come behind us. So it might be writing a book, or it might be the changes you implement as the CEO of a big company. It could be writing a book of poetry, or a CD of beautiful songs or something like that. Whatever it is that you see as being the legacy you want to gift to the world when you're gone. I'll give you an example of in my life when I was in my 20s, the legacy I wanted to leave was making the world a better place or more beautiful place through creating lovely gardens. And I renovated a couple of houses, built a couple of houses with my then husband, and that was my contribution, I felt, my legacy to the world, by leaving beautiful homes and beautiful gardens for somebody else to then buy and live in. So our legacy can be anything at all that has meaning to you, that you want to pass on to those who come after you. So this eclipse can reveal to you what the legacy is that you want to gift to the world when you're gone. And it can give you options and opportunities to step into more of a legacy. So if you know what your legacy is and what you want to do for the world, even in small ways, then there might be opportunities for you to fulfill that in greater capacity, or do a better job of the legacy that you want to leave. That is the energy of the eclipse here. You can also have a heightened sensitivity to your reputation and your public image now. So what do I mean by that? You need to watch out for gossip. You need to watch out for difficult news about your reputation. Remember I said in the introduction that there can be some news that comes your way because of this eclipse in the week before or the week after. You might hear that there's a rumor going around town about you. This is this is a house connected to gossip, and so be prepared that you know something. You might hear something, and it might really trigger you. This is in the negative with this eclipse, and this eclipse is a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to negative and positive, because we have a difficult aspect from Pluto in your first house. You and your reputation could be being affected here in a difficult manner. But there's also this beautiful conjunction with Spica and a Parivartana yoga forming as well that can feed into the benefits of this particular eclipse. So keep that in mind. You may hear that there's some rumor floating around about you because of this eclipse. Now, I'm going to talk in greater depth. There's so much more to say about this position. And I'm going to talk in greater depth at my Patreon page all about how this eclipse is affecting you and playing out for you, Capricorn. And so if you want to join me, all it costs is $5 a month. And then you get access to actually 3 videos. There'll be this video and the extended breakdown for all signs. But not only that, there will also be a teaching video where you can learn more astrology, and another eclipse video for the eclipse coming, the full moon eclipse in 2 weeks' time, where I break things down for my Patreon family again. So you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck this month by joining the Patreon family. So I hope to see you there, Capricorn. All right, my beautiful Sagittarius sun, moon, and rising sign people, the energy of the eclipse is most auspiciously falling for you in the 11th house. I'm so happy to share that with you, Sagittarius, because let me just say, the last couple of years, you guys have really gone through the ringer. So this eclipse is happening on the 15th of October in Australia and the 14th of October everywhere else in the world, pretty much. And it's happening at 21 degrees of Libra, your 11th house. So this is where you can expect some sudden changes in life. Now, these changes are going to come with an ending. Why is that? Because the eclipse is forming here, Sun and Moon together, with the South Node. It's the South Node that's causing the eclipse. And the South Node is to let things go, to release things out of our lives. So something is being released in order for you to move into a brand new start. And the brand new start pertains to the rewards and gains that you are receiving from your efforts. Let me just explain. If you've been putting something out into the world, maybe you've had a high-flying career, trying to change the world in some way through your actions in a career. Maybe you've written books, maybe you've made films, and they just haven't got the traction, or your work hasn't got the traction or the recognition that you hoped that it might, putting things out into the world. When this eclipse occurs here, it can bring such a big change that suddenly you let go of that old, paradigm of not really getting much for all the effort that you're putting in, and suddenly everything blossoms. Everything comes back to you, so to speak. You've cast your bread on the waters and now it's coming back in a magnified way. You get the rewards. So that's one way it can manifest, but there's a letting go of the old paradigm, which is where things weren't going so well. So there's a letting go of one thing in order for something else to manifest, and this is in the house of rewards and gains. It could actually be playing out in terms of friendship, because this is the house of friendship groups. Maybe you need to let go of an old friendship group that really hasn't been there for you, hasn't been supporting you, hasn't been behind you, and you realize they're actually not my friends. They are all self-serving and they haven't given me the time of day. I probably need to create a new friendship circle. So there's a letting go of an old friendship circle in order to embrace new friends who are more on page with where you're at in life in this moment in time. That's the kind of thing we're seeing. There's a letting go of one thing that the 11th house is all about, so that something new can be born. There's space in your being for the new thing to be born. So there's a change in dynamics with friendships that we are seeing here. Now, it could be a lot of friends, but it could just be one, maybe just one of your friendship group leaving your life now. But don't fret, because like I said, this is creating energetic space for new friends to come in. Eclipses are always turning points as well. And so this is a turning point with regard to the goals and dreams and aspirations that you've set in the past. You might be throwing them out now, saying, look, time has ended for that goal and dream to manifest for me. I've given enough energy to that in my life. It's time I created a whole new set of ambitions and aspirations based on where I am at now in life and what I want to achieve now. So it can be a real turning point regarding your goals and dreams and plans and aspirations for those things. You can even get intuitive downloads because of this strong eclipse here that sort of inspire you forward in a brand new direction for what you want to achieve in life as well. So listen to your gut, listen to your instinct and where you're being sort of pushed, if you like. The universe might be opening a door in one direction where it's closed a door in another. So tune into yourself, listen to what your higher self is saying around the time of this eclipse and trust it. This could also indicate a turning point or some sort of big radical change with an older sibling. Now, if you have an older sibling, they're usually seen from the 11th house. So their life might be changing and redirectioning in some way. It might be, that they've decided they're going to move to another part of the country or something like that. And so there's a change in the dynamic that you have with them. It could be that something in their life changes. Maybe their children leave home and they're an empty nester now. So big changes in the life of an older sibling could be how this actually manifests as well. I do feel that this eclipse is, because this is occurring in one of the auspicious houses, the wealth houses, the 11th house is a very auspicious house in astrology, and because the eclipse is conjunct the beautiful, angelic, and highly magically manifesting star Spica, if you have your 11th house cusp at this point, then you're going to feel this extra strong in a blessed way. So blessing is here and available for you. There's also quite a dynamic Padavatana yoga forming as well that's going to bless you. I'll be talking more about that to my Patreon family. But yes, blessing is available. So you might be blessed through your friends. A friend might give you an opportunity to create a whole new dream, a whole new aspiration for life. This is the house that represents the salary we get from the work we do. So it might be through a friend that you are in, get a whole new job that has a much better salary than what you've been experiencing as a result of this eclipse. There's blessing here with the rewards and gains and recognition that you deserve. And so that can come to you possibly through a friend because of this. But also I would suggest that rewards and gains might come to you through a male figure, a male authority figure. So somebody in a position of power who's a man. Could be a friend, but it could be somebody else. Sun is masculine energy. So being that the sun is the key focus of this eclipse, it could be that a masculine person gives you an opportunity to achieve more rewards and gains in life, or more recognition, or more visibility in the world. Some well-known man, some maybe even a celebrity might give you something of an opportunity to shine your light and to receive the what's due to you for all the hard work you've done and all the efforts you've put into your life achievements. Remember, this is the second house from the 10th. 10th house is our worldly achievements, and the second house from the 10th house of worldly achievements is the rewards you get for your worldly achievements. So that's why the 11th house is seen that way. I feel you're going to encounter, as a result of this eclipse, the right people at the right time. Like I said, possibly a man, but the right people at the right time who are going to help you with your dreams and goals, help you generate more gainfulness in your life. You might meet them as a result of this eclipse, so you could encounter somebody, but you may already know them as well. But the interactions you have during this eclipse season are going to prove to be very financially fruitful for you in the long term. I'm very excited to say, Sagittarius, and you deserve such success. You deserve such recognition. There could be new friends entering into your life as a result of where you are and what you're doing during the eclipse. You might make friendships that come in and last for a very long time and are really solid. They're also likely to be, because of Pluto's interaction here, very deep friendships, very intense friendships potentially as well. And the final thing I want to say is that this aspect from Pluto is actually working a little bit like a bomb. It's blasting apart any blockages in your psyche, in your circumstances, in your interactions, whatever. If there's a block between your ability to receive rewards and gains for your worldly actions, this eclipse, because of the Pluto aspect, is going to blow it apart. And you might find that the floodgates open now, and in comes everything you've deserved for all the hard work you've done and everything you've built with regard to worldly achievements. But it may come through a crisis because Pluto is making a square aspect. It might come through some sort of friction or scary circumstances, nervous inducing circumstances, like, oh my goodness, now I've really got to step up to the plate. Now I've really got to handle and juggle all everything that I've put together on a much bigger scale now because of this. So blockage is blown apart, but it could be quite scary, quite, it's like when the dam wall is burst apart, out comes the flood, and you're like, oh my goodness, how am I going to now handle this? So be prepared. There can be big changes that come about as a result of this eclipse, but I feel because of the conjunction with Spica, it's going to be all for the greater good. And keep in mind that Spica is also one of the wealth stars in the sky. She can bring great financial reward and blessing. And so especially if you've got your 11th house cusp here or a planet here at 21 degrees, same degree as the eclipse, this could be quite a profound moment and time in your life. Now, for full details about how else this is going to be affecting you, and I'm going into great depth with my Patreon family, really digging deep into how else this might manifest for our Sagittarius friends, then come and join me at my Patreon family. It only costs $5 a month to be a part of the Patreon family. You get access to lots of gifts and goodies and 3 videos with me each month, 2 moon forecasts, new moon and full moon forecasts, and an astrology teaching video every month as well. We're a great community. Why would you not want to be a part of this? But also this month, for $5 only, you'll get the extended version of how this eclipse is going to be affecting you. Plus, there's a full moon eclipse coming up in 2 weeks that will also be available to my Patreon family in an extended version there as well. So double bonus for joining this month at the Patreon family. I hope to see you there. Scorpio, rising, sun and moon people, you have waited till last, and I thank you for your patience. Oh wow, so Scorpio, this eclipse is falling in and activating your 12th house. Let me get this correct. There we go, nice and steady. The eclipse is occurring on the 15th of October in Australia and thereabouts, but it's going to be the 14th of October in most other parts of the world where this video will be watched. So how is this going to be playing out for you? You can expect that this eclipse is going to bring sudden changes. And because this eclipse is falling with the south node, it's the south node of the moon that's activating this eclipse, there's something that needs to be let go of as a result of this eclipse. And I would say doubly so in your case, because the eclipse is falling in the 12th house, which also has to do with endings and releasing. So very strong emphasis for Scorpio people on letting something go out of your life now in order that there's space for something new to enter in, something new to begin. So, whoa, Scorpio, hang on to your hat. This is going to be a big turning point in your life as something leaves now, something exits your life now. But don't get fearful that it's going to be, dreadful. I went through it wasn't an eclipse in my 12th house, but my 12th house perfection year saw my life as a single mother come to an end, and boy was I glad to see that happen. So sometimes when we lose something, we could be losing something we actually don't want in our life, but something we've had to shoulder, something we've had to burden ourselves with, and that can be leaving now. So when I say loss, when I say endings, when I say things concluding, don't get all like nail bitey and oh my God. It can be something that really does need to go, is now leaving. And I would say that's the case because eclipses can be very psychologically activating, especially when you've got a square from Pluto in this chart and a trine from Pluto in the chart of the initial Saros cycle eclipse. Something's being let go of, and psychologically in the 12th house, it needs to go. You're done with that old attitude, that old belief, that old trauma, that old hurt from the past. Get rid of it now. The eclipse is going to help you and support you in really transforming that and emerging from the ashes, Pluto being the planet that's all about being reborn again. So hang on to your hat, because the psychic downloads that you receive as a result of this eclipse could now blow your mind. You know, you could be receiving prophecies, you know, knowing what's coming up for you in the future, just having a really strong sense of what's unfolding for you. You can be get a download about some wound, some hurt, some trauma you experienced in your youth, that you can, by understanding, by getting that level of knowing, you can let it go. It won't wound you anymore. So psychic downloads of understanding, knowing, prophecy that will change your life. Don't discount anything that comes through for you now, even in your night dreams. If something happens, make a note of it, because you can expect guidance from the divine now as a result of this eclipse. Guidance from your higher self, guidance from angels, guidance from deceased loved ones, guidance from your own intuition. Very, very powerful time. Eclipses are always strong turning points, and this will be a turning point for something in your past, maybe an old habit, an old belief, an old behavior. Like I said, some old psychological wound is about to be transformed, changed, and you're going to be, like I said, reborn. It's a very, very powerful time for starting afresh, either consciously or unconsciously. So you're letting go of the wound, and of course it's a new moon, and new moons indicate brand new beginnings, new starts. So something in the next 6 months is going to be reborn in you. Maybe it's your joy as you let go of an old trauma. Maybe it's the ability to love again after you've let go of the old trauma of being hurt and wounded. So you can see it's a very powerful time for the subconscious healing to take place. In fact, the 12th house is a house of miracles. And so it could be that maybe there's nothing happening on the external for you guys, but inside there is this psychological transformation that means that life itself feels more like a miracle. You could also experience, because this is a house connected to the higher realms, you might feel like the divine is pulling the strings and you're just a puppet, you know, putting you in places where you meet the right people, where you encounter some benefit, you know, some blessing, because remember this eclipse is conjunct the fixed star Spica. Something blossoms out in your life because the universe is pulling the strings and making things happen now. Very powerful time for miracles to happen. I would say, Scorpio, that it could be a highly sensitive time in your life. You might be very emotionally triggered. You might be very sensitive, I guess is the best word. And there might be a need for you to take some time out. 12th house is to isolate. 12th house is to sleep, to rest, to take a holiday, to take a break. And I would encourage you, if you have the means to do so in any way, take some time out during this eclipse, because those downloads you're getting, that psychological processing that you might be going through, is a very, very powerful energy, and you want to support yourself in whatever way you can to cope with that best. So maybe take a rostered day off and have a long weekend where you can just put your feet up and rest and nurture yourself as best you can. Or maybe, you know, escape into some books or movies that uplift you, that make you feel really good, that are sources of inspiration in your life. Maybe you like, when I like to escape, I like to do many things to escape, but one thing I like to do is to go home to my the forest where I grew up, and spend time in the River Red Gums, and that to me is escaping and taking time out. You might like to do similar. The 12th house has to do with the oceans as well, so maybe spending some time by the ocean might be a wonderful thing for you to help you cope with the eclipse. Going for a surf or a ski, or you know, just a swim in the waves can be very, very beneficial, Scorpio, for you now. Now, the other thing that I want to mention is that for many of you, some miraculous healing can occur, not just psychologically, but in your life. A healing of debt, a healing of disadvantage, a healing of a physical condition, because this is the house of divine healing. The divine touches your life in some way and you're never the same again. This eclipse can trigger that. Now, this is especially true if the eclipse is falling on the 12th house cusp, or the 12th house manifestation point, I would call it, in the sign of Libra. So you can expect big changes in that regard. Also, the Saros cycle of this eclipse has to do with sudden removal of blockages in your life. And so if you have felt blocked mentally, spiritually, physically, if you felt blocked in any way, if you felt like, connections being held back from you, success is being held back from you, then, and it has, let's say it has something to do with a past conditioning or a past belief that you had, or maybe even a past life experience, then along comes this eclipse and its Saros cycle, which is to blast away any blockages. So that can include your attitudes, but it can also include past life experiences that you mightn't even be consciously aware of. This is the house of the unconscious. So meaning, in a past life, maybe you had an experience and it scarred your soul and, caused your soul to have this trauma. Well, along comes this eclipse and it blasts away that trauma subconsciously through some experience that you have around the time of the eclipse that just helps blast that out of your psyche, and you're restored, you're healed, you feel more whole, and you have a brand new, fresh start, new moon. So quite exciting, my beautiful Scorpio friends. And as you can see from everything I've described here, this is an eclipse that can be very karmic for you, and it can also be very deep for you, very meaningful for you. It's not very on the surface, so to speak. This eclipse is much more connected with what's going on deep within you that is affecting your outer life. Okay, and that's not the case for everyone else, because all the other houses in the horoscope are sort of more manifesting on the external level. But this is a house that's very deep and very psychological, and so the changes that the eclipse brings are going to be deep within you that then exhibit outwards. Okay, so that's a bit different to how it's expressing with others. But I have so much more to say about this eclipse and how it will be affecting you through the Parivartana Yoga, through the fixed star Spica, through the lordship of this particular eclipse. I can't wait to tell you more about it, but you'll need to join me at the Patreon family to do so. It's only $5 a month to join at the Bronze Star level and get access to some gifts and goodies, but also to 3 videos that I produce each month. There's usually a new moon report and a full moon report forecast for each sign, and there's always a teaching video to help you understand astrology better. You get access to those every single month, new videos every single month, and so it's really worthwhile for only $5. So come join me there for an extended breakdown of what is happening for your sign this month. You'll also get the full moon eclipse breakdown if you join this month as well. So very exciting. Come join me there and find out more about the mysteries of this particular eclipse and how it will be playing out for you. So thank you one and all for joining me for this rather big look at what the eclipse is up to in everyone's lives. I hope that you have a blessed eclipse season. I look forward to hearing some comments or reading some comments in the comment section all about what has unfolded for you and how it's lined up with the predictions that I've given. Thank you for being part of my YouTube family, and thank you for being part of my Patreon family. And tune in 2 weeks' time when I will have a report for the full moon eclipse that will be occurring. I'll catch you then.